Throwing middle, caught inside the 5. Jameer Gibbs to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. 14 yards on the strike. Goff to Gibbs. You can't cover that man one-on-one. You just can't do it.
Nice job.
Jared takes the snap, back looking, throwing middle. Got Amon-Ra inside the 2, to the 1, to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Nice job.
Mariota's got it back. Pressure comes. He's hit. Slips out of it. Rolling to his right. Now he's going down. Brian Branch got him. Sack for the Lions. Snap taken by Mariota. Wants to throw it. Gonna get hit. Gonna get sacked.
Yes,
Take it
sir.
down. Brian Branch got him second time today.
Nice job.
Hands it to Gibbs, running right, runs through a tackle, gets down to the 10, Gibbs through the 5, still fighting, down to the 2, down to the 1, to the end zone!
Yes.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! He did not quit!
Nice job.
Off to throw again, does, middle, J-Mo angling to the end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions! J-Mo flips into the end zone for 6.
Nice job. You talking about gut punch up the middle, then talking about tossing it on the edge, and once you get him out on the edge, Sonic is gone.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again!
All right. Good morning. Happy Trench Tuesday, everybody. It's the Rise and Grind Morning Show. And today we are going to get into, well, the trenches. That's what it's all about today. We're going to get in deep with some stats and analytics today, as well as talk about the interior, man. What's going on in the trenches? Has Brad Holmes done enough? There is a ton of conversation going on right now among this fan base that is placing a lot of blame on Brad Holmes. And while other interior defenders, exterior defenders, I don't care if it's Aiden, if it's AQM, whoever it is, there's a lot of blame. And just to be clear, just so everyone understands, I haven't changed one bit. I've always been clear. I've always been direct. I've always been honest and open and transparent about everything that I'm going to discuss, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, or 6 months from now. Some conversations aren't easy, right? Not everybody can handle the truth. Not everybody can handle the stats. And I don't know why I get blamed for that. I'm just giving you the information. There's a reason why I have $1,000 worth of subscriptions to be able to bring in all the information that you guys need to know or would like to know. Or, you know, if you listen from channel to channel, I don't care if it's a radio station, if it's ESPN, if it's CBS, NBC, Fox, I don't care who it is. There is such a variance of information out there, and none of it really aligns. It seems a lot of stuff is forgotten. There's some great analytics for the Lions that are not talked about. There's some not so great analytics by the Lions that is brushed under the rug. I feel what I do here is try to bring all that to light. We talk about the good, we talk about the bad. Yesterday, it's a bad day. You're coming off a bad loss. Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, bad day, coming off a loss. There's going to be a lot of feelings. There's going to be a lot of mixed feelings, emotions. There's people that are crashing out. I don't typically do anything like that. There's people that, falling off their chairs crazy. And then there's people that just don't say anything at all. They just give up. They really don't have anything impactful or insightful to add to the conversation. And I would hope that each and every day you get the honest, transparent information from this channel, because that's all we've ever done. It's all I've ever done. It's all I've ever asked any co-host or guest to do, is just be honest and transparent, be themselves, and don't be anything else, man. Don't be anything different. So today is going to be part of that. So last night I started digging in, and I wanted to put my foot in deep into Brad Holmes, his philosophy, what's been going on with the defense for the last 5 seasons. And I'm almost done with the piece, but we're going to go over it today, at least the majority of it. We'll bring in some video today. Eric is off at doctor's today, so we're going to bring in some video today from the Detroit Lions website and see what the players had to say. Yesterday's latest press conference, we'll bring that in. And Dan Campbell really, it seems like every week he's sending up a little vindication, you know, for what I spoke to on Sunday night. What I spoke to last week was very simple. You have to be able to adapt, and your defense cannot be stuck in a version of itself that was once prided on having a great secondary mixed with what is a really great defensive front. In Sunday night's game, it's like I said during the game, I think that Kelvin Shepard was playing like he had safeties. He was playing like he had Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph back there, and he didn't. That's not to say that Avonte Maddox is a bad football player. It's not to say that Thomas Harper is a bad football player. Absolutely not. What it's saying is they don't add the same level of continuity, cohesion, consistency, communication, all of that stuff is changed, and they play a different style of football. So where your trust lies with certain players that have been behind you an entire season is now gone. And so when that happens, you have to be able to adapt. And matter of fact, I think Dan Campbell's on 97.1 The Ticket right now. I'll bring that in here in a little bit as well. Let me get my mic turned up. Goodness. There, now you can probably hear me. I'll bring that in as well, and we'll discuss that as well, because I'm interested to hear what he has to say. Obviously, I haven't heard it because he's probably on right now. But yesterday, his message was adapt. You have to give the rest of the team a little bit of help. You have to give your safety some help. You have to give your DB some help. Did I not say that all last week? Did I not say that if you were in the live stream during the game? Did I not say that after the game? Pretty consistent with what I put out there. I wish I would have done more of my keys, but we discussed it ad nauseum on Thursday and Friday, that this was a game I felt going up against a Rams defense or Rams offense that was high powered, and you needed to take some of their effective weapons away. We didn't do that. That is not Brad Holmes' fault at all, period. That is the defensive coordinator's problem, and that is the players on the field. And it is Dan Campbell at the end of the day that needs to ensure his message is heard and felt, understood, and executed. Brad Holmes, well, before I get into Brad Holmes, let's do this. Let's time out for just a second. And let me get a couple of things set up. We'll do a hard reset like we normally do in the morning. And we're going to dive right in. Phone lines will be open. I would love to get a lot of people in on the phone lines to communicate what your feelings are about this team. Where do you think we're going? Do you think we're going to win? Do you think we have a chance to make the playoffs? Listening to some people this morning on 97.1 The Ticket, it's like our season's over. And nobody feels that we can beat the Bears. And everyone's giving the Bears all of this credit. And I don't get it. I really don't. I call them frauds for a reason. So let's get into all that. And I'll be right back in 17 seconds.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
1 second. Gotta fix my camera. All right. Yeah, just trying to make sure this camera looks halfway decent. It's been a struggle to get this thing. I'm almost there. We're close. All right, so good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Today, we are going to discuss trenches, Brett Holmes, the season, and where we're going. We're going to bring in some video, like I said, of the Lions media, like we always do on Tuesdays. We have a whole plan on Tuesdays to discuss a lot of different things. And more importantly, I really want to hear from y'all. So when the phone line's open, man, one at a time, light it up. Tell me what you're thinking. Today needs to be all about you. Like Jim Jackson has a question in here. And if you do have questions, please put them in caps so that I can see it. Sometimes the chat goes so fast, I don't get to see anything. It all depends on how many people we have in daily. Like right now, we don't have a lot of people in, so I should be able to see everything. Let's see who we do have, though. Of course, we have Trace kicking us off this morning. El Mueller, good morning. Jim Jackson, Maureen, of course. Southwest Line 26. Attila. Bo Booth. Raw B. Brandy Coffee. Brian Brady. Hassanine Mahdi, good morning. Hope you're doing well today. And Derek Lewis. So, good morning to everyone in the chat. Obviously, everyone listening behind the scenes. Good morning to you all as well. So Dan Campbell's message, man, what was it yesterday? I want to bring that in here in just a moment. We'll start with that. And then before I get into Brad Holmes, I want to start with that because I want to be very clear about Brad Holmes and what I feel his job has been, what he has done. And I put a lot of work into this article that's going to drop today with a video, and it's deep. Like, it's long, so like I put in there, you got to buckle up because it's a long one. But there's a lot of information, and I'm hoping that it is going to paint such a clear picture for Lions fans. There's a fundamental failure, I think, with fans. You could include myself. I'm a fan as well. There's a fundamental failure, I believe, with how so much anger and resentment and hatred or whatever it is going against Brad Holmes and what he has done. I don't understand it. I really don't, because he's done so many great things. And like we discussed yesterday, you chase him out of the building, which fans have been able to do before. Sometimes that grass isn't greener on the other side. We could dive right back into a rebuild, and it may not ever be the same. Because I'm telling you right now, everything starts at the top. It trickles down from Sheila Hamp. It goes to Brad Holmes and everybody in between, to Dan Campbell and the rest of the locker room and all the assistants and all the coaches. Brad Holmes is a big key that has unlocked who we are today. Without his ability, without his foresight, not hindsight, we're not the team we are today. We don't just get this good. Man, we couldn't even get players to come to this team. We couldn't get free agents. And the ones that did come charged us, tooth and nail. And then they didn't turn out, right? How many times did we bring players in that didn't turn out? And then we are up, creek without a paddle and a bunch of dead cap. So you got to be careful what you wish for, because if you push the dude out, remember, he's only signed for a couple more years. If you push him out, he'll just go win with another team. That's proven. His draft strategy, the way he builds a roster, he will go win with another team. But before I get, again, too deep off into it, it's easy for me to get into that conversation. There's a couple of things to maybe think about. One, if you ever watched the movie Moneyball, because if you haven't, do it. I think it's a great movie for anybody to kind of get an understanding of what happened during that era of baseball and where baseball kind of is today for a lot of teams, and how that is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, how that has been brought into the NFL game. It has been brought into the draft war rooms and the scouting staff. The way that they look at analytics now, and with all these different measurements and tools that you can use to not only develop but analyze players, it's crazy. It's a lot of information. You have to have some pretty smart quantitative minds that can analyze this stuff and make it make sense. Make it make sense into layman's terms so anybody can understand it, but make it make sense so you actually know what you're looking at. And I believe that Brad Holmes is using a variety of different methods. I don't know what all of them are, but I have a pretty good idea. And the article will speak to that. It'll speak to that. So I want to get into Tim 20 Minutes questions because he's got a couple of questions yesterday evening. The key questions: what is Dan Campbell's message to the team right now as they embark on a significant stretch? So I'll ask you guys a question first and foremost. What is the most important thing that happens for the Lions this season? I know that is a very loaded question. It is open-ended for a reason. What is the most important thing that comes out of this season? Whatever that may be, whatever your answer is, put it in the chat. Obviously in the comments later, put it in the comments. What is the most important thing for the Lions this season? If I'm going to be greedy, I'm going to tell you this. I can't stand the Bears. Okay, I can't stand Ben Johnson. I think I'm very clear on that. Used to love the dude for what he did in Detroit. And yeah, I think he's a great offensive coach. We'll see how his time in Chicago wanes, but I think he's getting lucky right now. That's part of the NFL. You need a little bit of luck. Lions got a little bit of luck too in 2023. But we can't allow the Bears to beat us. I mean, I think y'all know how important it is that the Bears don't take the North and that the Bears don't make the playoffs and the Lions don't. You will see all the headlines now, right? You can envision all of them, what they're going to say. I'm not going to go down that road. We just can't allow that to happen. And if anything is more important to me right now for the Lions season, is that we control our own destiny versus the Bears. That is the most important thing to me. Whatever happens beyond that, great. But right now, it is not letting the Bears best us, because that is going to be a national headline that this fan base will never live down. It'll be pulling the paper bags over their heads once again. And they're going to be furious. They're going to be saddened. They're going to be sick to their stomachs. And they're going to take out all that aggression on Brad Holmes. All right, Jim Jackson says, a playoff win. Something that improves on last season. Okay, let me expand on that. Last season I think was an anomaly, right? We didn't really deserves probably the wrong word. It was highly unlikely that we were even going to make it to the playoffs, let alone win a 1 seed. I really didn't expect, much. Of course, talking throughout the season, going in, the last few weeks of the season, I was still riding high. I was probably one of the only people. Quite literally, one of the only people that does content, persons that does content, that was saying that we were good, that we were going to continue to win, that we had the depth. Nobody believed me. Nobody trusted me. And as each week went on, and as each week we talked about the defensive line, and as each week we talked about what's opposite of Aiden, I kept telling you we're going to be fine. We're going to get pressure. We're going to affect the quarterback. We're going to do what we do to win the game. And that continued to happen week after week after week. I could see it happening because of the way that the team was built, the way that the roster was built, right? And that's the long way to say, I believe last year was an anomaly. We didn't have it at the end. We didn't have the squad that could really match up well against Washington if we lost one more player, and that was Amik Robertson. And so winning a playoff game and trying to do better than last year, I think that's a great statement. But for me, I think that we could do better than that. I think that we need to look at 2023 and say, how can we do better than that year? So for me, it's an NFC championship would be great. Yes, it can still happen. And again, I'll go back to the Chiefs. 11-6 Chiefs won a Super Bowl. They did not look like a Super Bowl team. They had a lot of help. They got a lot of luck. I think they had a few paid zebras. But we'll leave that alone. I'm not going to die on that hill this morning. But last season, you started to see that roster work. You started to see what Brad put together work. And even though it's not the big, bright, shiny object, the highest paid guy, it was the backs of our backups that got us there. And then Ben Johnson scuttled the whole damn thing, and Aaron Glenn called the wrong defense. I think everybody understands now, even though I was screamed at last year for saying you don't blitz the RPO, and everyone was saying to get pressure on Jaden Daniels. But if you go and look at the games that they lost, the teams that beat them did not win with the blitz. They didn't win with an overly aggressive amount of pressure. They won like we just beat the Ravens through the contained games, setting a hard edge and taking away the pass and the run, but taking away the pass because you set a hard edge, take away the run, and then you set up to take away their best receiver. That is how you beat Washington last year. Eagles lost one, figured it out, won one. Right? That was the blueprint. But they weren't the only team. Why the Lions went in and felt that they were going to do what we just did against the Rams, play a defense that we had no business playing. We had no business playing like we had safeties to help our corners against the Rams on Sunday. But that's what we did against Washington. We blitzed the hell out of Jaden Daniels, and he just ran all over the place. Dumped the ball off or passed it downfield because everything was wide open. And once you get one thing out of whack and you can't shut down the run and you can't stop a running quarterback, man, that downfield is going to be open, and that's what happened, and it killed us. So last year was an anomaly, but I'm with you. Let's do better than last year. All right, let's do better than last year. And funny as it may be, we can still do that. We can still do that. Make sure you guys put any questions or statements, answers, whatever, put it in caps so I can see it. Brian Brady says, I swear I heard new GMs win Super Bowls in 5 years, or they don't actually. I know I've heard it many times. I don't think Brad's done enough and given up a lot. We choked in the NFC Championship game and last year. Well, I don't agree. And Brian Brady, I don't know if you were ever in the shows, but we'll talk about it this morning about how GMs win and when they win. And we'll talk about two of them that I know their exact stats on. But here's something that I would definitely disagree with. Did we really choke in the NFC Championship game? Everyone wanted to blame Jared Goff. But anytime you put up 30, 34, 37 points in a game, you should win that game. Your offense has done enough. Our offense stalled out in the second half. That was Ben Johnson. Why did our offense stall out in the second half? But our defense collapsed. Our defense played great. The 49ers made the adjustments. We did not. Aaron Glenn got stubborn yet again in trying to do what everyone else is telling him to do. Get after the quarterback, rush the edge, blitz everybody because we need sacks. That lost us the game. The aggressiveness lost us the game. The offense did enough to win that game in the first half. All the defense had to do in the second half was just not let them score. Bend but don't break. Make them take a lot of time off the clock because we were up by, 17? They needed 3 scores. make them take a lot of time off the clock, and then we needed to go run the football. Ben Johnson didn't do that either. He was trying to throw the football. He was killing drives. So, we choked as a team, but Brad Holmes didn't choke. And then last season, we didn't choke either. If you believe that at 15-2, 21 guys on injured reserve, 12 starters out of that game, that we honestly had a chance, I think we're on two different planets with what you need to survive in the playoffs. You have to be at your best. When week 18 ends, and if you are in the dance, you have to be at your best. That means your best play calling. That means your best available roster. Hopefully, it's a roster that is somewhat healthy and you have a majority of starters. Not many teams have won a Super Bowl with a depleted roster. That I can assure you. That does not happen. But how do you maintain? All right, that'll be another question. How do you maintain a roster? How do you maintain the inevitable in the NFL, which is injury? How do you do that? We'll talk about it when we get to the article. As far as GMs winning in 5 years, that usually doesn't happen. That is so rare. As a matter of fact, Howie Roseman, let me just pull this back up, just so I can make sure I give you the stats correctly. What's the best way to look this up? Okay. Howie Roseman, I believe, was hired in 2010. Well, I'm going to try to be brief on this. I'm not going to go forever on this. I'm sorry. Howie Roseman was hired in 2000 as an unpaid salary cap intern. He became the GM in 2010. So he's actually been there for 25 years. He worked his way up. I don't know if he went anywhere else in between. Doesn't look like it. But he was the GM in 2010. So what happened in 2010? He inherits a football team that he's been with, right? That the 3 seasons before that, or 2 seasons before that, they lost the conference in 2008. They lost a wild card in 2009, and they lost a wild card in 2010. Well, under Howie Roseman's control in 2011 and 2012, they didn't even make the playoffs. Matter of fact, they went 8-8 and 4-12. And then in his 3rd season, they lost a wild card. All right, let's compare that to Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes went 3-13-1, and then he went 9-8, right? And then in year 2, didn't make the playoffs, so very similar to Howie Roseman. And then in year 3, we lost the NFC Championship. We won 2 playoff games. Howie Roseman lost his first playoff game. And then the next 3 seasons, 2014, 2015, 2016, they didn't make the playoffs. The Eagles went 10-6, 7-9, and 7-9. And then in 2017, they won a Super Bowl. So it took Howie Roseman at least 7 seasons. And during that span, they only went to the playoffs 1 time and lost. And then they somehow pulled out a Super Bowl. And if you remember, during that Super Bowl, what happened? Their quarterback that got them all the way there gets injured. And then they put in, was it Nick Foles, right? They put in Nick Foles to take it the rest of the way. That's just crazy that even happened. But it did. And so then what happened after that? Well, 1, they didn't win in 5 years. So that's not true. He did inherit a very good football team that you'll see again when I start talking about some of the things that I prepared. Why was it a good football team? I think that's the key. Why? How? So after winning the Super Bowl, the next year they lost the division, and then they lost the wild card, and then they didn't make the playoffs in 2021. Or 2020, excuse me. Then they lost the wild card, lost the Super Bowl in 2022, lost the wild card, and then won a Super Bowl again in 2024. So in 14 seasons under his control, he has 2 Super Bowl wins, 1 Super Bowl loss, and he's lost the wild card 1, 2, 3, 4 times and lost the division once. Like, that's not a great playoff record. But why should that give Lions fans a little bit of hope? Just a little bit of hopium. Why would that give us hope? Because what that blueprint tells you is you don't have to win a bunch of playoffs. You don't have to be a perennial playoff team to win a Super Bowl. The Eagles just did it. And they kept losing in the playoffs. We exited after a first round bye. And according to this, the next year, then we would lose a wild card this year. And then we would get blanked the year after that, then lose a wild card again, and then win a Super Bowl. So if we go by this blueprint, we're in year 5. We're in year 5. We could potentially win a Super Bowl this year based on the blueprint. Could. But more likely it'd be like year 7 or 8 on average, because it took them 7 years. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Took them 7 years to win a Super Bowl. The other guy was Les Snead. And this was a common conversation, going around a couple weeks ago too. How do we compare Brad Holmes? Well, the names that people wanted to compare him to were successful GMs, Howie Roseman, Les Snead. Okay, so Les Snead he became the GM in 2012 for the Rams. And in 2012, and prior to 2012, the Rams have not been to a playoff game or in the playoffs, period, for more than 7 or 8 seasons. But in 2012, they started to draft well, right? They started to turn that team around. They got rid of Fisher after a couple of seasons. They brought in Jared Goff in 2016. But in 2012, they didn't make the playoffs. 13, 14, 15, 16, no playoffs at all. And then in 2017, Jared Goff's first full season, they lost the wild card. The very next year, they go to the Super Bowl in 2018 and lost the Super Bowl. But from 2012, it took them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons to make it to a Super Bowl. Okay, so they lost that one. 8th season, no playoffs. 9th season, lost the division. 10th season, won a Super Bowl. So it took Howie 7. It took Les Snead 10. So what is that average? All right, the average is 9, I guess. 9 seasons, if you're comparing Brad Holmes to those two. After the Super Bowl, this came up online last night, comparing the Rams and what they did after going all in 2021 and saying, well, the Rams, they had one down year going 5-12, and they had 2 10-win seasons, after that, leading into this year where they have 11 seasons. And so going all in means that the Lions are going to be okay. They're going to win 10 games every year by going all in and selling the farm and not having any draft picks and not having any money. Yeah, that's ludicrous talk. That's doesn't make any sense, because 10 wins right now in the NFC North, what is that going to get you? Potentially not even a playoff spot. 10 wins in the NFC might not even get you in the playoffs. I don't want 10 wins. We need 12 wins or more every year to be a competitor, to contend for something that matters. And the way that you do that is by doing what Brad Holmes has been doing. And we'll talk about it. Promise. Okay. Let's see. I don't see anything in caps yet. So Jim Jackson says newer fans don't realize how long it has taken to get us here. We have a very good roster. In my opinion, it's better coordinators that we need. Dan is a great motivator. Just need the game plan to get there. I would agree. I agree and disagree. I think our coordinators are good. I think Calvin Shepard's great. We do need to find that next OC that is going to be the genius, right? Someone that can work with these guys. Sometimes I do believe that maybe Dan and Brad maybe make it a little bit too complicated, meaning that they're trying so hard with all these analytics, right? The money ball in trying to find these coordinators or these players. And that is the one thing that I would disagree with, that maybe you don't need to worry as much about culture. I mean, I get it. You don't want a disruptor. That would be bad. You don't want a disruptor in the locker room. You don't need a coach that's a disruptor. You don't need a rogue coach or, a positional coach, a coordinator. Everyone needs to be in lockstep. I do believe in that. But I do feel like sometimes they put too much of an emphasis on their process, even though that process has worked out very well for them so far. So it's like I'm kind of on the fence with it. It's really not a good way to say it. Did I hear DJ Reader's comments about how the Rams changed their blocking scheme after halftime? Example of coach's inability to adjust in the game. We'll listen to what Reader said today. We'll get into that. But again, I haven't listened to him yet. But again, that has been a consistent issue for a long time, where we don't adjust, we get stubborn, and this was a game we couldn't get stubborn. Period. But had they started the game the way that I was hoping they would, we wouldn't have had that issue. And Dan Campbell mentioned it yesterday. You have to support the rest of your guys. You have to. You can't leave them on an island. His exact words. You can't leave these guys on an island and not give them any support. Okay, great, Dan. I'm glad you said that after the game. But where was the conversation before the game? To me, that's what matters more. Hey, Calvin, what is the plan? Are you really going to roll single man or a single high safety, man on man against this team? And we don't have anybody that we really have good cohesion with back there right now? That's a recipe for disaster. That would have been my conversation. I think we need to fix that. Let's go man on man when we can. We'll take calls when I open it up. You just got to give me a minute to get through some of this. Whoever's calling, we'll go man on man when we need to, right? But I think the majority of the time you have to be in zone against that team, and you just got to give up some of the stuff underneath. That would have been a better play. But you know what? That was Sunday. Game's over now. Now all we can do is hopefully win the last few games, and we have a chance. All right, Campbell's message to the team as they embark on the season-defining stretch of games to finish the regular season where they must go 3-0 to reach the playoffs. Dan's simple message, you just got to go to work, man. Go back to work. That's the message. Don't worry about the what-ifs in this. We have to win. So be it. He also mentioned something, and I'll bring it in just a moment, that maybe the message needs to change, and he has to say it differently, and that maybe the guys will get it by saying it differently. That part I don't understand. There's only one way you got to say it, and that's the right way. I don't know if it's a teaching thing, if it's a technique thing that you're trying to teach them, that you're trying to get them to understand, but if it's something other than that, there's only one way to say it, and that is, unfortunately, my way or the highway, right? You tell me what you're seeing out there. Where do you need help? You tell me what you're having trouble with. Let's try to get you the help. But at the end of the day, it's this way, it's this scheme, or it's not at all. Right? I think that's the way that the NFL operates. You have to do exactly what they're asking you to do. But if you're having limitations, or if you have limitations, or if you're having issues, present it, talk about it, try to find some sort of common ground that they can help that player do better within the scheme that they're trying to utilize. And I feel like they just didn't do a good job at that on Sunday. Thomas Harper hasn't had a bunch of snaps, and Avonte Maddox hasn't had a bunch of snaps this year, and they're back there playing against one of the best teams in the league. The fact that we scored 34 points on one of the best defenses and against one of the best or the best top 2, top 3 teams in the league, that should have you more comfortable than not. That should tell you that our future is more bright than it is dim. Nobody expected the Lions to go to LA and to be able to compete and have a 10-point lead in the first half. Nobody did. Nobody gave us any respect, nor any time of day to go do that. And we could have won that game. Should have won that game. Oh, Jake Bates. That's right. You want to talk about Jake Bates. Look, I don't really know what's going on with him, but I will say this. Didn't he have an ankle or some sort of an ankle injury back in like week 14, 13, and even back during training camp? I think he did. He also got laid out, man. You remember that play he got laid out? He got crushed. And I don't know if an ankle injury came out of that, but he got absolutely planted. I mean, he got pancaked hard. And it was on the run back. I don't remember which exact moment in the game it was in, but it wasn't against the Rams. It was in the previous game. So I think his concerns with his kicking as of late, maybe he's got that ankle that's still bothering him. That could explain a lot, with the way that the ball comes off his foot. I don't think he's aiming wrong. I don't think he's setting up wrong. I just feel like maybe it's just the ankle still. It could be. I don't know. He hasn't been on an injury report, so there might not be anything to that. I think Bates has been fine since he's been in the league. Oh, yeah. It is laughable, Southwest Line 26, to blame Jared Goff for this loss. I'm sorry. You put up 34 points. The offense isn't the issue. No defense can win football games giving up more than 20 points a game typically. I know that I've shared all of that with you guys for 3 seasons now. Go back and look at all the wins and losses for every team, every matchup, every year. The team that scores more than 20 and the team that scores less than 20. Well, the team that scores less than 20 usually loses. Now, the other side of that is when both teams score less than 20. Now, you have to take that into consideration. But when both teams, or when one team is scoring more than 20, it's if they hold the other team under 20, they win that game on more than 85% of all games. It's a fact. I've done the math. I've extrapolated it out over seasons, and it's a fact. I should redo it this year and add this season in. Citing the third quarter with only 6 yards. Yeah. Well, is that a Dan Campbell issue? Is that a play calling issue? There is a very stark stat that I know a lot of people want Montgomery more involved in the game, but let me share this with you. In the games that we have lost, Montgomery or Gibbs hasn't done anything. The games that we're winning, Gibbs is involved in the slot. He's heavily involved in the run game. He's having more than 125 yards per game in all of our wins since week 8. All of our losses, he's held, I think, under 60 yards. Not all purpose, but rushing. So that's why we need Jahmyr Gibbs involved in the game plan. He is winning the game for us right now. He's a big reason why we're winning. Has to stay that way. Dan Campbell, in his press conference yesterday, what wasn't the defense able to consistently limit, or why wasn't the defense able to consistently limit the Rams in both phases? The Rams averaged 5.5 yards per carry while racking up 159 yards on the ground with 3 rushing touchdowns. Matthew Stafford threw for 368 and a couple more scores. LA had 519 total yards of offense, and Detroit allowed the most that Detroit's allowed all season. Dan Campbell's quote says, "It is extremely difficult defensively to defend those guys if you cannot even corral or limit their run game." Okay? Well, for me, that starts with the word corral. Contain. We didn't contain. We didn't set hard edges. We got one guy flying up and wide outside. We got another guy bull rushing in. Contain. Jack needed to stay put in the middle of that defense. If those 3 things happen, if those 3 points happen, this is a much different game. Much, much different game. And the reason why I emphasize that so much is because 1 sack, 2 sacks in this game didn't make a difference. Right? So forget the sacks. Don't chase the stats. Control the run. You control the run, you control the field. We didn't do either. We were chasing Matthew Stafford. Can't do that. And he can't do it the rest of the games either. Aaron Rodgers, he's a sitting duck. Yeah, you might be able to get after him a little bit, but he's also going to get that ball out quick. Dan Campbell's quote continued. He said, "It started there. A number of things with the turtle motions, and that should be turbo, not turtle. Should be turbo motions, and the inserts with the tight ends. They force your corners to be support on inside. Just a couple of tricky things." I'm not really following him here. We'll just have to listen to him. Campbell did say that they got to be a lot crisper on all things moving forward, and that they will likely see the same kind of game plan on Sunday against Pittsburgh because they run a lot of the same concepts. Pittsburgh isn't scoring points. I think they've scored like 336 points on the season, where the Lions, I think, are over 500. So I'm less concerned about them putting up points. But we do know Aaron Rodgers can put that ball downfield, and if he sees that our DBs are hampered, he's going to press them, and he's going to take advantage of them. If he has a receiver open and he has a little bit of time, he can hit it. One big thing this week will be devising a plan where they utilize their help a little bit better in certain areas. I'm expecting more zone the rest of the way out. And I've been saying that. And we did see a little bit of zone at times. And as a matter of fact, if you go back and watch, which today I will finish the tape review and it will be put out on DetroitFootballJournal.com. So if you want to watch the tape review, make sure you go and subscribe to DetroitFootballJournal.com. If you go and watch the game, you'll see where we went to more zone in the second half. And we started to take some things away. Obviously, we were already up against it. It was a little too late, when we decided to use a little bit more zone look. But, man, opportunity lost. Update on injured corner, Amik Robertson. He should be able to play on Sunday against the Steelers. Obviously, the situation. We're already down Terry and Arnold, and I have a feeling today Kirby Joseph is done for the year. I haven't heard anything just yet, through the Lions themselves. But speaking with some people behind the scenes, Kirby might be done. And that could be the final straw, yes or no. You tell me. I don't think so, because he hasn't played all season. For the most part, he hasn't played since week 6. However, we really need his ball hawking ability in the back of that defense. It does instill a little bit of fear in quarterbacks, or a lot of fear in quarterbacks. But if his knee is shot, I don't know why they're trying to limp him around. You could have put him on IR 9 weeks ago or whatever it was, and you could have had him go and had a cleanup surgery or something. God forbid any of them ever listens to this channel. Go get some hyaluronic acid and inject it into your knee within 2 days and put a little steroid in there. Within a couple of days, he should be able to move around a lot better. I just had hip injections, and it took about 4 days for it to all calm down, and now I'm actually able to move a lot better. I can row a lot better, which is the most important thing. Yeah, he's way too young. Way too young to have that happen. I agree with you there. Question by Jim Jackson. Are we getting out physical now? Are we no longer the bully? You know, I think that we are still a very, very physical team. Very physical team. I think that we have... Okay, so the question that goes along with that I didn't get to ask yesterday, that I said went with ice cream, is I'm hearing now that people think that our team is soft. Fans think that our team has gone soft. Yeah, I don't think that we're a soft team by any stretch of the imagination. I do think that we are an aggressive team. I think that we are physical. I know that we're a physical team. I mean, you look at the way that we play. I think that our style of football has been missing in action over the last couple of weeks. Not getting turnovers. I mean, yeah, against the Cowboys, we had a good game. Prior to that, it was missing for several weeks. That is how you beat teams, man. You have to be able to come up with interceptions. You have to be able to knock the ball out. And if you're not doing that, then you have to stop either the run or the pass. Pick one. Pick one and take it out. If you can't get the other, you got to get something. But I don't think that this team is soft. And I do see us being a very aggressive team still. I don't think that's changed one bit. Where's Frank? Yeah, I wish Frank was back. Are we losing in the trenches? I think so. The offensive line did look a little bit better against the Rams, but we have a long way to go. All right, let me get this question out of here. All right, I'll be back in 17 seconds. And then we'll get some videos queued up, and then we're going to get into my article on Brad Holmes, man. It's, like I said, it's almost complete, but I have enough of it complete that we can talk about it.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
All right, so I do want to listen to Dan Campbell. It was not a very long presser. I do want to listen to him. Just looking through the videos, there's really not a whole lot that we've missed just yet. Dan Campbell on 97 won the ticket. Let me see if they have that up and posted right now. I do want to hear what he had to say this morning. Give me 1 second. Let me get that brought in.
If Aaron Rodgers marches up and down the field against his defense, then okay.
Yeah, but it wouldn't really prove anything to bounce back off a loss. They've done that all year.
But here's the deal. The Lions.
Few of them out there is.
WXYTH.
More on his status today.
Another win for the
All right, here we go with Dan Campbell.
Able to get a win in Boston. Night when neither team shot well. Detroit defends. That shows up every night. Pick up another win, 21-5. Great start, putting 60 wins in the crosshairs, and this team just doesn't take nights off.
No, they're a fun team to watch. A lot of energy, fast pace, great defense, and I'm just so happy that that's the team that we get to watch every single week, or every single day.
They're a fun watch. We'll also have Red Wing tickets to give away in the 9 o'clock hour. Let's talk to the Lions head coach, Dan Campbell.
It's time for Lions Weekly with head coach Dan Campbell. Brought to you by Family Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Dan, good morning. Thanks for getting up with us.
Good morning.
Dan, since the Philly game, we really felt like, hey, the defense is going to be a side of the ball that we can really count on, and it's been struggle after struggle. What's been the toughest challenge for this defense really since you guys faced the Giants?
Yeah, well, I think the big thing has been just the explosives. You know, we've given up a lot of explosive, particularly passes. You know, that's where we got hit a little bit. That started against the Giants because I'm with you. We've played very dominant against Philadelphia, and then that Giants game we got hit on some stuff, and it's become a little bit of a common theme, and there again, that's the reason being there's the number of things that play into it, and it's always going to be rushing coverage at the same time. I think we can help those guys a little bit on the perimeter, but certainly we got to play more consistent.
With Aleem McNeil, is it that he's not fully back from the ACL? Why do you think we haven't seen more impact from Aleem lately?
I don't. I know Mac feels like he could play better. He holds himself to high standards, and we know there's more in there, and sometimes there's a lot of things that go into it, but sometimes you process things a little too much instead of cutting it loose. You're thinking about the look, what is the formation, all these things, but I know he believes he can play better, and we all do. So Mac, he's going to go back to work, and he'll be all right.
When you mention helping those guys on the edges a little bit more, and I know that, hey, when you're on an island, it's tough. You're going to be highlighted. You're going to give up some plays, but how do you give those guys some help? And when you do, what's the risk? Where are you then vulnerable?
Well, I think, you're just a little bit more safety help in some areas, and then you become vulnerable in the box, You become vulnerable in the middle of the defense. You put a lot of strain on the linebackers in coverage, and then you put a strain just on the run game in the front seven. But that's also, we got some pretty good players there too, and they can handle the load. And if that means we put more on Jack Campbell and Reeder and those guys, then we'll do it.
Talking to Lions head coach Dan Campbell, is there a common theme with some of the run game struggles, specifically looking at like the NFC heavyweight games, the Eagles, the Packers, the Rams? When you look back at the tape, is there anything that you're looking at saying, yeah, that's the common theme?
Well, I know this. We haven't been able to run the ball consistent enough against those teams. Some of these teams that have a really good D-line, we have not been consistent enough. And I'm always going to be critical of myself, and, do you call a little bit different types of runs, did you try to give enough variety to help those guys? So, I'm always going to be critical of myself.
At the beginning of that Rams game, obviously you take that first possession down, and you're sitting there at, I believe it was the 25-yard line. It's 4th and 4, and we're all sitting in front of our TVs going, Is this a situation where Dan goes for it or kicks the field goal? You decided and elected to kick the field goal. Good or not good, didn't matter. What went into the decision for you in that situation, 4th and 4 in the 25, to kick the field goal versus going for it?
Well, I think for me going into that game, there's always factors. Of course, there's things that I'm drawn to want to go for it more. That's my nature. But I also know there's factors I go into. What are we going to get? What do they have? What are our matchups? But what do we have play-wise? And then protection, all of those. And so that was just a tick out of my range. That was just a tick out of my range to go for it against that opponent with where we were at.
Going back to the run game, you said maybe you could call different runs or different plays. We just wonder if you have the personnel to execute the way you did in previous years. So we keep looking to see, could there be a move made? Is it maybe more Miles Frazier? Is that a guy that you want to see? Maybe that makes the difference up front, because even if you call the right play, if it's not blocked up front, it's not going anywhere.
Well, we're always going to look at personnel. I mean, that's what we do too. I mean, it's we're critical of ourselves, but we look at the personnel and can we get some help in different areas that would make us a better team, or do you stay pat or what? We're always looking at that. But I just think I can always help with, do we need more? Here's the thing, man. I've said this before, everybody's got warts in this league, man. Every team, even the good ones. And so, where can you help supplement an area that may be deficient? Are there, do we need to throw it more? Do we need more perimeter runs? Do we do different style of run? Do we just change some things up? And that's what I'm tasked with. My staff is as well. And so we got to be better. We can be better.
As offensive play caller, do you feel the pressure to have to score on every drive?
Well, I think you get in a game like that the other day, you feel like, and in going in, I knew we'd need to score some points. That's a very good offense, and that quarterback is playing at a very high level, has for a number of years. So we knew we were going to need to score some points. Just, they've done that to every defense they've faced. They've been able to score. So, yeah, the other day, you felt like we were going to need to score some points. And really that third quarter crushed us. We go out, we have 3 and outs. That's awful. That's not good enough. And that got us in a bad way.
As you go down the stretch here, does it feel like you guys are running out of time, just knowing you don't control your own destiny and there's only so many games left?
Well, we only we only have 3 left here and so, yeah, this is it. I mean, we got to win these last 3. And, there is no more, there is no margin for error now. We talk about how minute it is. There is none. So we must win. We must win. And that's just fine. That's what we're in this business for, and that's why you love this game, man. It's frustrating as hell, but my God, it's so competitive. And that's what you love about it too, man. So it's going to take every one of us. It's going to take all 3 phases. And you wouldn't want it any other way either, by the way. So let's go.
Who are the guys, whether it's in terms of a leadership role or just performance on the field, that you have to have a great performance if you're going to win these final 3 games? And let's just say the Steelers. That's the one that's next. Who is it that has to step up for you?
Well, I mean, I would name a lot of guys. I would, and there's a lot of guys that do this every week for us, play at a high level. Jared Goff's going to have to play at a high level. St. Brown's going to have to play at a high level. Gibbs is going to have to play at a high level. Hutch, freaking Jack, Alex, Muhammad, Reeder, Mac. I mean, it's going to take everybody. We can't just get away with a few of our guys playing well. It's going to take every one of our heavy hitters to show up and show up big and consistent. And then they got to pull some of these other guys with them.
I do want to ask you about Roy Lopez. He seems to be a defensive tackle that's been very effective for you. Wasn't a marquee signing. What have you seen from him, and what has he brought to this team?
Man, he's been an excellent addition for us. He really has. I mean, he's a force in the run game, man. He's a load. He anchors in there. But then he's quick enough, fast enough, strong enough, plays with leverage to get an edge, and he's a disruptive player. And he's been an outstanding addition for us, man. Really love that guy. And he practices his tail off, too. I mean, what you see in the games, he gives you that every day.
Dan, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they played last night. Want to get your initial thoughts on the matchup, but also, like, how do you watch last night? Because as a fan, we're watching very differently. Are you taking notes? What's it like when you're not playing and you have a chance to watch like that?
Well, actually, I'll be honest with you. I watched after the fact. Like, sometimes I do, but last night I didn't. Trying to catch up with the game we just came out of and making adjustments and then really getting on to the cut-ups before that game. So I haven't even watched it in totality. I've just seen cut-ups of that early this morning. So, but when I do, I just take notes as they go and look at different things as much as you can from the TV copy.
What is your thought on the matchup this week with the Steelers?
Oh, they're a good team. They always are. Coach Tomlin's a hell of a coach. They're competitive. They're always in the running. The division is up for grabs for them. They have a hold of it. They got a grasp of it, and they're a rugged style defense. They're going to make you earn it in the run game, and they're going to hit you in the pass game. And offensively, they're going to line up in heavy, a little bit like what the Rams did, but a little more downhill. Boot style in your face, they're going to get down and dirty, man. And they've got a quarterback now that's very efficient with it and can throw it around the yard. So it's a good team, and they're in the running. So we got our hands full.
It's Lions head coach Dan Campbell. Dan, thanks for your time.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, Dan.
It's 97.1.
Okay, 97 won the ticket. Always pleasure to listen to Dan Campbell every Tuesday morning, usually right around 8, 8:10, 8:15 in the morning. They try to get him on. I know it does vary, obviously, with the schedule. A few things to kind of break down here. And like I said, I'll get phone lines open here in just a minute or so. That went a little bit longer than I anticipated. I'm going to run real quick through this. So more safety help. And exactly what I've been saying all morning, said it all last week. This has to happen. Whether you're putting in 3 safeties and 2 DBs or 2 corners and a nickel, and you're rolling 6 DBs, if you're getting faster and you have more coverage and you take away the pass game, I think that's a benefit to this defense. I think that you allow the natural 4 to stop the run. I think you allow your 2 linebackers then at that point to stop the run. It all depends on what Pittsburgh is going to show us, right? I will tell you right now, we have a big opportunity, but they're coming in on a short week. They played last night. They completely thumped the Miami Dolphins, which the Miami Dolphins are not a great team. But when you look at the third quarter, 14 points, 2 touchdowns in the third quarter is huge, right? That's what the Lions need to be doing. The third quarter has been our Achilles heel for 5 seasons. We were good for a brief moment, but that is where we need to come out and play our best ball. You should never come, out of a half and lay down. You need to come out of the half energized, ready to go, good game plan, mix it up, go score some points. If the Lions can't score points in the third quarter, it doesn't matter if we make it to the playoffs because other teams are, and if we don't, we're not going to win anything. So we have to fix third quarter. It has to be fixed now. It's something that has needed to be fixed for 5 seasons. So fix it. Figure it out. Whatever it is, whatever you did in the first half, don't do it in the third quarter. Dan said it earlier this season. You have to, they were scheming things differently just for the third quarter. They had third quarter plays all set up with him and Ben Johnson. Go back to that. Scheme up the third quarter like it's a brand new game. Go back. Don't have a call sheet where you're running a script. I just said script it, but don't have a script. Be a little bit fluid. Because I'll tell you right now, what's happening for us in the third quarter is killing our team. It's not an indictment on Jared. I think it's an indictment on the play calling. Because it was a problem with John Morton, and it's been a problem with Dan Campbell. We've only had like 1, maybe 2 games where we've done something in the third quarter this season at a pretty good clip. Running the ball with more consistency. We can't do this up, down, up, down, up, down. We can't have one good game, bad game, good game, bad game. Can't do that. You have to be able to put some mileage on these running backs' feet in every game. Every team has warts. Well, right now, our biggest wart is the run game is inconsistent, and we are lacking some secondary help. So you have to fix it. You have to find a way to, field a team that can represent who you are as a defense, even though you're missing some pieces. What do the Lions do differently, and how do they approach the run game? We'll get into that on Thursday. Are the Lions running out of time? Hell yes, they are. And here's one of my biggest takeaways out of this whole thing, and it's been something that I think some Lions fans have talked about a little bit. Is Dan Campbell just too damn macho, or is it all coach speak? And what I mean by that is, what did he say in this morning's interview? I wouldn't have it any other way. When talking about running out of time, having to go out and win these games, on the fly, and it's either you're in or you're out. I'm sorry, Dan. I don't want it any other way. I don't want it this way. I don't want to always feel like my back's on the wall. I want to play out front. I want to have a lead. I want to go in having, 2 games over the next NFC North opponent. I get it. We had some trouble this season. We've had a lot of injuries again this season, mainly to the secondary, which has really hurt this team. But the machoism, it just just being too macho, it has to go. And I get it. That's what you're telling your team, right? You're trying to tell the guys, hey, look, man, you don't want it any other way. This is football. This is what we live for. This is what we want to do on Sunday. We want to go prove it to the world and ourselves that we are the best team on the field. Say whatever you want to say. It is meaningless unless you go and do it. And it is even more meaningless if you don't put together a good scheme and hold your coordinators and your position coaches accountable. The one thing that I wouldn't have allowed to happen, I'm sorry, you are in a fight for the playoffs, and Tyler Roll is going to go be an offensive coordinator for Iowa State. Where was it okay to allow this guy just to go interview? I get it. Dan Campbell wants guys to move up. But why would Tyler Roll want to take a back seat and go back to college being an OC? Maybe it'll further his career down the line. Maybe it won't. But those types of distractions, I'm sorry. If you want to go coach at Iowa State, you can go now. Bye. See ya. I wouldn't have those distractions. And when it comes to getting coaches, having interviews, well, I think that the rules need to be changed in the NFL. I think that there's no reason to start hiring guys until the season is over. Nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change inside those 6 weeks from January 1st till, middle of February. Nothing has changed with that team. You have a couple of months before the draft. It's plenty of time. Your scouting team that's already with the team, they'll figure it out, right? There's no reason to hire these guys this early. Just let it be. But we can't fix that. That's the NFL. It's going to take everybody to play in this game. He mentioned just about everybody. AQM, Hayden, Jared Goff, Gibbs, Jack. I mean, you name it. He mentioned everyone. And not only for them to play well, but they got to pull the other guys up with them. Some of the newer faces or the guys that haven't been around long. It's what I said last week. I wanted to see our leaders. I wanted to see the captains come into this game against the Rams and just play at a much higher level than we've seen. And some of them did, and a lot of them didn't. I'll end with this. Roy Lopez, I will always be smiling anytime that we talk about Roy Lopez, because this guy, I mean, what he did against the Rams, getting in there, getting into the backfield, he's a menace. He's an absolute menace. I hope he's with us next season. I really do. What a ball of energy he has been on that interior. He might be one of our best interior linemen. I know Tyleek is having a pretty damn good season for a rookie. I can't wait to see where Tyreek is next year. Right? I can't. I think that he's going to be way better than Ali McNeil has ever been. But right now, he's not. And right now, it's 2025, and he just has to play one game at a time. But we have a really good interior, and there's no reason why we should be giving up yards to any run game. And where I'm going to put the blame, though, is if you haven't noticed, Terrell Williams had our defensive line playing insanely good with guys that we didn't even know. And when he left after losing all of the defensive line, the only one that was left was DJ Reader and Jack Campbell. That was it. Those are the only two guys that were left in the starting rotation. What has Casey Rogers not done this year? Because he's not getting it done. He has an extremely talented defensive line. Extremely talented. I mean, probably one of the best in the league on paper. The way you take it from paper to the field is the mark of a coach. So I'm going to put the blame on Casey Rogers with our defensive line not performing to its level. Something has to be fixed there. And maybe it's just the fact that he's young and this is a new team and maybe it'll get figured out by next season. But Casey Rogers needs to step up. The task is on him to figure out what this defensive line needs to do because Terrell Williams didn't have a problem. I think Terrell Williams is the reason why Aaron Glenn was able to command that defense the way that he did last year. Terrell Williams, I think, was the key to everything. It's too bad that we lost him, and it's really too bad that he's battling prostate cancer. But it's evident that Terrell Williams was the absolute best defensive line coach we've seen in Detroit, at least in the last 5 seasons. So, Helpful Chases, we do not do enough stunts. Yeah, I don't think we do either. We need more multiplicity on that defensive line. Way more multiplicity. Our run game is completely collapsed compared to last year. Yeah, I don't know about that. I would just say we're not consistent. I think our run game's there. I think the most important thing is the offensive line. If the offensive line is not consistent, the run game's not going to be consistent. If the play calling's not consistent, then none of it's going to be consistent. I think that when the offensive line is fixed, you're going to see this run game be dominant and unstoppable again, and it could be 200 yards a game. It could be. It absolutely could be. We're just a couple of pieces away, but Taylor Decker battling the injury all season. I know we can't make excuses for injury, but that's pretty tough to do. To play left tackle with no left shoulder. That's really tough to do. Really tough to do. We need to play the run to get to the quarterback, not play for sacks and hope to stop the run. Yeah, I would agree with that. Good morning, Mike P. Let's see. Helpful Chases. I like the story behind Roy Lopez where they asked Ragnow who he had the most trouble against and was looking. Yeah. Yep. That was something that I noticed last year too. I was hot on Lopez. He gave Ragnow fits in that game last year in Arizona. And that's exactly why they brought him in. Anybody that can give Frank Ragnow trouble, that's a guy you want on your squad. All right, let's get into let's see what questions I have for today. We went through the Lions are soft. Is DJ Reed gone? And no, we went through that yesterday. We kind of talked about the Bears a little bit. All right, let's get into this. I'll open up phone lines. So if you guys do call, I'll stop doing the article read here. But I am gonna turn this into a video later today. Why is that not going? There it goes. I am going to turn this into a video later today because I think it needs a little bit more context. It's a little bit long. It's very long. I'm going to try to trim it down a little bit, but here's the punchline, man. Did Brad, and a lot of you probably are not going to like some of the things that I say in here. I tried to tame it back a little bit. I don't want to ruffle people's feathers because I can be honest about players. But the punchline is, did Brad Holmes save the future of the Lions and his career in Detroit? And you're probably wondering, what am I saying? Oh, we got someone trying to call in already, and I'm not hearing it ring. Why is it not ringing? Hold on, you're going to have to call back. 1 sec. I got to figure out why it's not ringing. All right, try again. Try again. Everything's on. There we go. Now it's ringing. All right, good morning. You're on Rockhound Detroit Lions. Who do I have on the line?
Hey, Will, what's up? It's John.
Hey, good morning, John. How are you?
Not too bad, man. I think I don't get where all this Brad Holmes hate is coming from everybody.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, you can clearly say, if we were healthy, that this year and last year, we would be the best team in the NFC. And that's hands down without a doubt for me. And everybody talking about other edge players and whatever, sign this. But you go and make a trade for Trey Hendrickson, he wants a contract. Micah Parsons wants a contract. And then you could say bye-bye to J-Mo, bye-bye to Brian Branch. Like, I just don't understand how everybody just thinks like Brad Holmes is just an average GM. This guy's, I've never seen a GM like this. Change a culture drastically, get starters religiously that are really, really good players. I don't get the Brad Holmes hate.
You know, I think when I get to a certain area in this article that I wrote last night and this morning, I think it'll make a little bit of sense. I hope it does, because I really tried to dig deep into why Brad gets hate. And if you notice, when does he get to hate? After a loss.
Oh, it's always after a loss.
Always after a loss, right? Like, no NFL team is allowed to lose a game.
I mean, losses happen, especially when you're missing everybody in your secondary. It's gonna happen. But like, this year, to me, if they make the playoffs, I think they're the most feared team. Nobody wants to play them in the playoffs. Nobody's gonna want to play the Lions in the playoffs at all. Just from experience and the way they play football, that screams playoff football.
You know, I think
it would be nice if we get Kirby back.
Yeah, I hope we do. And you know what? I think that you're spot on with that. When we make it into the playoffs, let's start there. When we make it into the playoffs,
yeah, there we go.
I think that teams are going to kind of look at that and be like, okay, now all they have to do is click. And if they click, then no one's going to have, the game that they're expecting against us. And I think that's the same thing that I said against the Giants. Like their defensive line just wasn't clicking. And what I said before that game is if and when they click, they're gonna give us a hard time. And what did they do? Man, they tore us up and down.
I could see the Lions winning these next 3 games and being considered the hottest team in the NFL going into the playoffs. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan. Like I want them to do this. I could see it also the other way. I could see them losing tight games. I could see the Bears being a questionable game. But I mean, I'm praying, I guess.
Yeah. Look, I think we're good if we get in. I mean, we're up against it. I don't know any. But what
teams. Do you consider?
Go ahead.
What do you consider successful? I mean, if they make the playoffs at 11 wins and they win one playoff game. Is that a successful season for
I
Brad
mean,
Holmes and
we're
Dan Campbell?
we're obviously going to be going on the road more than likely, and if we can go win some games on the road, I think that's successful. I think that when you've battled everything that we've battled, I think it's successful.
Yeah, I think
but if
I was a Super Bowl and bust guy. I was Super Bowl or bust this year. But when the injuries started happening, I'm like, you lose Pro Bowlers like Kirby Joseph. I mean, that's hard to win Super Bowls like that. You know, I mean, you're taking away at least 6-7 turnovers from the defense in the season. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to win. I think if they win a playoff game, I would consider it a success.
I think I would too. I mean, obviously, I'm in the same boat as every other fan. We want a Super Bowl. We deserve a Super Bowl. And we worked our asses off, right? You know, the Lions have worked their asses off to get to a Super Bowl. But it's the NFL, man. I mean, things happen. It's not easy. And for whatever reason, I think that a lot of Lions fans feel like it's just easy. Like we got it. We've never had one. What would make us think that it's easy to get there? You know,
I mean, personally, I feel like Detroit fans in general are we're a little. I mean, I'm 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're a little spoiled with championship teams in this city. You know, with the Red Wings, even the Pistons. You know, I think the way the Wings won, I think, kind of made it look a little easy sometimes. You know, and I feel like the NFL is a completely different story, and it's hard to win in the NFL. It really is. That's why it's so impressive when teams win 2 or 3 championships in 5 years, you know. And I think Brad's on his way there with the way he's been drafting players and building this team, because I think it's pretty easy to go and, you know, pick the brightest flower in the field every year and try to win it that year as much as you can. But it's hard to build a dynasty and change a culture the way Brad and Dan have. And I think they've done a really, really good job. I think so too. And I think they're one big trade away from having a full-fledged dynasty. I really do. And I'm not saying it has to be like a Matt Stafford type of trade, but I think they're just a couple first-rounders away from being super, super good. Now that may be Hutch down the road, or that may be somebody that we don't want to see go, but I think it would be better for our team. Every team has to do it. You know, New York didn't get Saquon, you know, and I mean, every team should do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's why I catch a lot of flack, because I'm like, I would have traded Kirby. You know, when Hutch is having a great season, I would probably trade him and try to get a bunch of first-round picks. But remove the name. Insert any football player that's having a great year that's going to cost you a ton of money, and you to maximize your roster, to maximize your future. That's why the GMs, well, I guess that's why they're hated, because they do things that the fans don't like, right? So
yeah, but they got to be done. You know, I'm sure Jerry Jones didn't want to trade Micah Parsons, but he had to.
Right.
Eventually, he had to.
Well, just like you said, Saquon. No one wants to trade Saquon, and then he goes and has a season that he does, but then now he's a dud this year, you know?
Now he's a dud this year, But they got a Super Bowl. You know, I mean, it's all I wanted to trade Kirby pretty bad, because I thought we could have got some really good picks for him.
Yeah.
But when they signed him, I knew I don't think they're going to re-sign Branch. I don't honestly, until he got hurt. Now I feel like this injury kind of works in the Lions' favor. They can give him a prove-it deal, a 1-year prove-it deal, and kind of keep him around, you know. And I don't know if we want him around. Achilles are hard to come back. I mean, it's just really hard to be a GM in the NFL. It's pretty hard, and Brad Holmes has done a great job, and I think people need to get off him a little bit.
Yeah, so next year is Brian Branch's last season under contract. Yep. So if he does make it back for training camp, which is possible, then I mean it's at least 9 months. It's possible that he could start, you know, the first week. It could be week 6. But I think you're spot on there. Maybe he gets a limpet deal. He gets a small 1-year, maybe 2-year extension to get healthy and see where he's at, but he's still tradable at that point.
Yeah, I think we should have gave Hutch a 1-year prove-it deal too. But I'm not really upset. Like, okay, so we go at it about Hutch a little bit, but I think Hutch is a good football player.
I do too.
I don't think he's a top 10 defensive player in the league. I think he's maybe a top 5 defensive end, but he's definitely tradable. Like you could find good players at defensive end and not pay him what we're paying Hutch. But if somebody offered you 2 first-round picks for Hutch, I'm see you later, dude. Take it easy, dog. Like, give me the picks. I'll take the picks because defensive ends, they're game changers. They could do everything, but they don't really force that many turnovers, and turnovers are what win in this game.
Well, except for Hutch, he's been getting some interceptions, man. He had a great play the other night, you know.
That was a great play. He's athletic. I'll give him that. I give him he's athletic. I feel like sometimes he looks for strip sacks a little too much, and he should really just play the quarterback a little bit more. Sometimes I feel like he looks for sacks too much. But, I mean, there's a lot of depth on this offensive or defensive line that's pretty hurt right now and that we're missing. And I think Josh Pascal is a big piece that we're missing on this defensive line.
Yeah, Pascal's a huge
miss.
miss. Yeah, Pascal is a huge miss this year. And Davenport needs to wake up. He needs to wake up. I mean, he's playing well, but I think he needs to wake up a little bit more.
I just didn't have high expectations for Davenport because he's missed a lot of football in the last 2 years. And for me to expect him to come in and have this fire, I feel like I didn't expect it from him that much. You know, there were some other free agents that maybe we could have went and got that are pretty good defensive line players. And I'm not particularly saying edge, but just good football players that make good football plays. There were some, but they're going to cost a lot of money. And we didn't have the money to spend because we were having to pay these players that we drafted. And
yeah.
That being said, is we have good players that we drafted and we should pay them. You know, I was a big Art and Key guy. I wanted Art and Key. He didn't get paid too much money, but he's not really having that great of a year, you know. And would he been different in our scheme? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think we're in good hands with Brad Holmes.
Yeah, I think you just hit on something though. See, when all of these names get floated during free agency or trade deadline, it's like go watch what these players do after the fact. And so Brad Holmes catches a ton of hate because he doesn't make this move or he doesn't make that move. But then if you go watch that player and how they're performing, it's like, thank God we didn't do that because it's extremely rare that a player gets traded and has a crazy year.
It doesn't happen that often.
It doesn't happen very often. They just become part of the clique. And they may play good football, you know, they may have some good games. They may stick out here or there. They may have a flash game, but Brad wants consistency. And consistency is much harder to attain than a flash in the pan. And it is. You know, and a lot of things that you just said, I get a lot of flack for it because I just try to be honest. You know, and it's really hard with Hutch too because he's a local guy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he is a great guy. I mean, what was that defensive end we signed a while back ago from New England? I forgot his name. I don't know why I'm drawing him.
Trey Flowers?
Gave him a lot of money.
Yeah, Trey Flowers. Yeah.
You know,
he didn't work out.
Great player in New England. We gave him a bankload of money and disappeared. He was not even considered a good football player here. You know, and I don't think it's important to draft or to sign free agents that are going to be considered you're counting on them and this and that. I think it's more we need more depth on this team, and the depth on our team is getting hurt, especially on both of our lines. And I think that Brad's going to address that this year in the draft and in free agency. I hope nobody expects these huge splash players being signed because it's not going to happen. Yeah, maybe Jared Goff is going to restructure his contract so that we could sign some guys, but like they're going to be our own guys. They're going to be Laporta. They're going to be Jack Campbell. They're going to, you know, and I don't think this team needs that. I think this team needs really just to get healthy, and it would be a juggernaut of a team.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we're up against. Like, you know, nobody expected Sam Laporta to go down and then Brock Wright to go down. And I mean, that's the worst of it for this offense.
James Dilstra playing tight end for us hasn't played all year.
Right. Those are chain movers. You know, Brock Wright doesn't catch a ton, but he's a blocker. He's a chain mover in the run game. And the same for Sam Laporta. I mean, he's your seam guy. Whenever you're going up against a man defense or a soft zone and they go to a light box, he's going to get hit on that seam route every time. Not having both of those players is huge right now. So the Lions are up against it. Let's let me get your final thought here. Can the Lions win out and go to the playoffs?
I think it's definitely possible for the Lions to win out and go to the playoffs.
And if we go to the playoffs, how many games do you think we can win? If we stay healthy.
If we make the playoffs, I think we can go to the NFC Championship game, but I would be happy with one win.
Okay. All right. And next season, what is your biggest?
I wouldn't be happy.
What is your biggest?
Happy, but I would.
Yeah. What is your biggest move for next season in the draft?
In the first round. In the first round depends on the players and where we're picking at, but I could see them taking a safety in the first round.
Ooh.
Just because interior linemen you can find in the later rounds.
Yeah.
Or in free agency. I think Frazier's still a good player. I think he's a really good player. I don't know why he didn't start. Why he's not starting over Cologne. But
it's youth. That's all it is youth against the Rams defense.
Yeah, but this is the year to get him the experience, because I don't want to come back next year and everybody's feeling good and feeling great and we're finally healthy and we have to start Frazier at left guard and he's still young. I'd rather him have this year than the following year. But I could see them taking a secondary player in the first round, unless some of these linemen drop. Unless we pick at a pretty good piece where we can get I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's a few interior offensive linemen that play guard and center that are probably going to be first rounders. So we'll see.
We'll see where it goes.
In Brad, I trust.
Well, there you go. And I'm about to get into that right now. I appreciate the call, man. You have a good day.
All right, I'll be listening. Take care, guys.
Yeah, you take care, man. Bye-bye. All right, I'm going to pause calls for just a moment, and then we're going to get into. So he brought up some good points, and I think that my article is going to touch on a few more. So let's just get into it. Most importantly, the biggest question is, did Brad Holmes save the future of the Lions and his career in Detroit because of one simple thing, and it's his process. It's his philosophy, right? So in a league addicted to what I call the fast movement, right? The bright lights. Oh, everything just moved on me. Hold on. Oh, I'm going to pause calls for just a moment. I don't know if you heard me, but I'm going to pause so I can get through this. You just got to wait 10, 15 minutes and I'll open it back up. Hold on. So, in a league, like I said, that's addicted to the fast movement and the bright lights, right? The big splash plays. Brad Holmes chose to take the sustained momentum instead. And he did it through balance, patience, calculated risks, and the calculated strikes, really, I think, was the most important thing that Brad has done and how he's performed in every draft, in every free agency. He's only gotten better and better and better with what he's added to this team. Other teams, they may bet the franchise on a singular chess move, but not in Detroit. Not in Detroit. The chess master, Brad Holmes, he plans 5 moves, 5 steps ahead. And he's banking on the depth of the board mixed with development to get this team to where it needs to be. There is a stark difference between the two philosophies. One team will keep humming with a diversified portfolio, and the other is hoping that going all in on a penny stock will hit before the bottom falls out and the window of opportunity closes. The argument for restraint here isn't theoretical anymore. It's literally playing out in real time, and we saw it come to fruition on Sunday with the Packers. So the real question is this: how do you sell philosophy to a fan base, stakeholders in the locker room? And will they embrace it long enough or start doubting every move, every move or moment that the momentum starts to dip? What do I mean by that? Well, you're seeing it. The Lions get a loss against the Rams. All of a sudden, the stakeholders, the locker room, or the fan base, right? They're starting to doubt every little move that you made, everything that you did to get there. So like I said, you got to buckle up on this one. It's going to be a long one. And we're starting with rewriting the roster equation in Detroit, because that's really what it is. It's an equation. It's something that I call roster roulette. It is not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. The GMs have to make these bold moves or no moves. And every single one of them, well, they're going to get graded. They're going to get torn up. They're going to get shredded. They're liked. They're not liked. People agree. People disagree. That's the joy of being human, I guess. We all have different opinions. But Detroit's front office has been rewriting the roster equation for both the offense and on the defense since 2021. Brad Holmes' resource allocation is unmistakably simple. So simple, in fact, it makes too much sense. And he is following the blueprint of very successful Super Bowl winning franchises. It is a fair statement that what Brad Holmes is doing may not be understood or respected by a large swath of the Lions fan base. And this article will focus more on the defensive side of the ball. First, I start with the defensive playbook. That's really what this is all about. And it starts like this. He's built the foundation with interior run-stuffing disruptors on the defensive line, rangy linebackers who can thump downhill against the run, yet they flow sideline to sideline in coverage to control the second level. And they balance the front seven with versatile playmakers in the secondary. Well, we're missing a lot of them right now. We have a lot of injuries right now, but you get the idea. Use the draft to secure young, cost-controlled talent, supplement with targeted free agent veterans for leadership and stability, and emphasize rotational depth across the defense. You layer in playmakers not only for the deep rotation, but on special teams to extend impact, keeping the roster fresh, and you stay dangerous deep into January. Okay? The coordinator's job, simple. Maximize the matchups. Well, it's not simple, but you get the idea. Mix the styles. Keep the defense unpredictable. The result is pressure that comes in waves and holds up late into games without forcing your cap hand and big signings or leveraging the future with splash trades. I think you already get an idea or a sense of what I'm talking about here. But let's talk about draft or buy the Super Bowl. How does it work? And in the modern era of the Super Bowl, I went back to, what was that? I went back to 2010-ish, and I started to kind of look at what are teams doing to succeed. Again, we've had this conversation many times throughout many shows over the last 3 seasons, said in different ways. And this time, I just kind of broke it down, and I'm not going to run through all the names. I'm just going to give you the numbers. I've always said that the teams that win and the teams that win often are the teams that draft well. They're the teams that develop well. And yes, that takes time. When you inherit a team like Howie Roseman did with the Eagles or Andy Reid did with the Chiefs, they were able to get maybe closer to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl or have more success earlier because their drafting and developing was supplementing what they already had and then building upon that. And then within a couple of short seasons, the guys that you've drafted are developed and now they're really good football players. They've bought into your scheme. They've bought into your coaching style, all of that. In Detroit, it was different. The Lions literally scrapped 85% of the roster in 2020. When Brad Holmes took over control of this team in 2021, he didn't have any money. We were upside down like $40 million in dead cap. We had enough money to sign our rookies and maybe a few bucks more after that. The player that previous caller just mentioned in Trey Flowers was a large reason for that. Collins was a large reason for that. All of that dead money. The picks that were traded away that we no longer had, they went to New England. So we started from the bottom. It was literally starting from a brand new, ground that you had to excavate and turn into a foundation. So I looked at all the teams, or a few of them, and these are the teams that have won Super Bowls and how much percentage of drafted players were on the starting roster. The 2011 New York Giants, they had 15 out of 22 starters, offense and defense, which is 68.2%. On offense, they had 8 drafted players for 72.7%. And on defense, they had 7 players, which was 63.6%. Free agents or traded starters, they had 5 players. David Bass, Kareem McKenzie, Michael Boley, Antrell Roll, and Deion Grant. I think Antrell Roll might be the only one out of that pops into my head. 2012, the Baltimore Ravens, they had 18 out of 22 players drafted. That's 81.8% of their roster were drafted starters. On offense, they had 9 out of 11, and on defense, they had 9 out of 11. 2014 New England Patriots, 16 out of 22 players drafted. 9 players on offense, 7 players on defense for 63.6%, 9 for 81.8%. Their free agents or traded starters: Brandon LaFell, nobody. Darrelle Revis, damn good corner. Brandon Browner, decent corner. And Kyle Arrington, name doesn't pop in my head. But Darrelle Revis, that name is big, right? 2017 Eagles, top drafted starters, 15 out of 22. On offense, they had 8 drafted, and on defense, they had 7. Free agents that they brought in: Elshon Jeffrey, and if I remember correctly, Elshon Jeffrey did not have a major effect on that season. Torrey Smith, good name, wide receiver. LeGarrette Blount, great running back. Steven Wisniewski, running back. No, left guard. I think he's a pretty good left guard. Patrick Robinson, corner. Chris Long, really good defensive end. Chris Long podcast, Green Light. And Corey Graham. So if any team did it to the nth degree, it was the Eagles with the players that they brought in free agency and or traded for. But the point still remains, 68.2% of the overall team that year in 2017 was drafted. And it's not like they were drafted that year or the year before or the year before that. We're talking several years that these players were drafted and re-signed. I'll give you the Eagles, since they're one of the newer Super Bowl winners over the last couple of seasons. Carson Wentz, Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Halapoulivaati Vaitai, Isaac Seumalo, Brandon Brooks on offense, all drafted. On defense, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Vinnie Curry, Michael Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, Jalen Mills, Ronald Darby, Malcolm Jenkins, Rodney McLeod, Nigel Bradham, and Timmy Jernigan, all drafted for the defense. 2020 Tampa Bay, 77.3% of their Super Bowl winning team were drafted. Offense, Tristan Wirfs, Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, Alex Kappa, Ronald Jones, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cameron Brate. 72.2% or 72.7%, 8 players on the offense. On the defense, 9 players were drafted for 81.8%. Levante David, Devin White, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, Jamel Dean, Jordan Whitehead, Antoine Winfield Jr., William Golston, Vita Vea. Free agent or traded starters: Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaquille Barrett. I mean, come on, right? This is an all-star team. This is like what we used to do in the Olympics. You just get everybody in that wants to play, the best of the best of the best. A lot of these guys took pennies for contracts. They didn't take squat to go play because they wanted to go down there and just win a Super Bowl. That kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore. And before I forget, I'm going to say this now because I'll forget to say it later. I think that what a lot of us as Lions fans have been kind of ingrained to believe is that our starting defensive tackles need to be Ndamukong Suh. Just because we had a guy that was drafted in the first round that ended up being a game wrecker from day one, extremely rare as far as size, height, weight, speed, strength, tenacity, anger, aggressiveness, you name it. Ndamukong Suh was one of one. There has not really been anyone better than Ndamukong Suh, I believe, as a rookie or even a first, second, third season player. You could probably, put a couple of guys up next to him, but not many. And so I think that when we're thinking Tyleik Williams, Ali McNeil, DJ Reader, it's like, but that's not Ndamukong Suh. And you have memories of this is what our defensive line was supposed to be. Ndamukong Suh getting sacks, getting into the backfield, constantly disrupting. Well, that was a different scheme too, right? You're talking a single gap scheme versus a gap and a half scheme that we run now. Gap and a half scheme penetration is a lot different. You have more assignment. You have more detail in gap and a half scheme. You're responsible essentially for an extra gap. And Ndamukong was just go. Just be a game wrecker, go. And if you remember, the A and the B gap where he penetrated the most often was the quickest way to the quarterback. That's why he had success. So I wanted to say that because I think our history and our memories have a lot to do with our feelings. You can let a psychologist tell you the rest. The 2021 Rams. Total drafted starters, 13 of 22, 59.1%. Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Higbee, Brian Allen, David Edwards, Rob Havenstein, Cam Akers, 7 on the offense for 63.6% of the offense. Defense, they drafted Aaron Donald, Greg Gaines, Ernest Jones, Taylor Rapp, Nick Scott, Jordan Fuller. 6 drafted for the defense. Who did they bring in? Matthew Stafford, Andrew Whitworth, Odell Beckham Jr., Sony Michael, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Williams, A'Shawn Robinson. Now, they didn't bring all of these players in at the same time, but they brought them in a year or two before, or some that year, and that was their starting cast to win their Super Bowl. 2024 Kansas City Chiefs drafted starters, 15 of 22. 68.2%. Now, there's a lot more I could go into about the Chiefs, but if you go back and look at all of their Super Bowl winning teams, or even their Super Bowl appearance teams, it's more than 68 to 70+% of all of their teams are drafted. You have to go all the way back. Like Chris Jones is like the most tenured player outside of Travis Kelce on that squad. And Patrick Mahomes, of course. But they drafted Patrick Mahomes, Xavier Worthy, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Wanya Morris, 5 on the offense. On the defense, they drafted George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Tershawn Wharton, Michael Dana, Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Justin Reed, Brian Cook. 10 drafted on the defense. 10. 90.9%. Who did they bring in? Kareem Hunt, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Juwan Taylor, and Drew Tranquil. Out of all of those names, Juwan Taylor and Kareem Hunt were probably the only 2 that made a difference that were brought in from free agency or traded. There's another one that I want to make sure that I don't miss, and that would be the Ravens. I don't think I mentioned the Ravens, did I? I'm not done with... Oh, I did mention the Ravens. I wasn't done with this section. Maybe I didn't, but 81.8% for the Ravens. No, I mentioned them. 81.8%, and that was equal 9 apiece on offense and defense. Who did they bring in for free agency? Anquan Bolden, Vonta Leach, Bryant McKinney, and Bernard Pollard. Bernard Pollard, hell of a safety. Anquan Bolden, hell of a receiver. Vonta Leach, good fullback, not used often. Brian McKinney as a tackle. So, and those are all free agents. Anquan Bolden was a trade. So again, I think that when you look at what Brad Holmes is doing, we have to look at comparably to other teams. What type of recipe is he following? Is he creating his own blueprint, or is he following the blueprint of successful teams? And I would say that he's leaning on history that has been proven time and time again, right? If you look at who our starters are today, let's go back to 2021. We have Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. Sam Laporte is injured, but Sam Laporte, Jahmyr Gibbs, that's 5. Christian Mahogany was a starter. Isaac Tesla, he's not a starter yet. Tate Ratledge. So we have 7 starters right now drafted that are starting on our offense. 7 starters that Brad has drafted, and we have one of the most powerful offenses in the league. So that's not by mistake, right? It's not by mistake. And trust me, this article goes on forever. It's going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. Defense. Who do we draft that's on our defense? Derek Barnes, Lee McNeil, Malcolm Rodriguez, but he's not really playing a whole lot. Aiden Hutchinson. So I'll go with 3. I'm not going to count Malcolm just yet. So I'll go 3 there. Brian Branch, that's 4. Jack Campbell, that's 5. Terrion Arnold was a starter, that's 6. And Talik Williams, he was a starter, that's 7. So again, you have 7 and 7 on our offense and defense. It's almost equal. And I think that is not unique. It's by design. Brad Holmes has intentionally, purposefully put players on both sides of offense and defense and strategic places, not double dipping in one area in the first round, to make sure that we have cohesion, consistency, and players that can play. If we lose players, we have players that can step up and play at a better level. So 63.6% of our offense and our defense right now are drafted. And we have one of the number 1 offenses in the league now for 2.5 seasons. At least you could say we're a top 3, top 4 offense over the last 3 seasons. All drafted players. Right? I'm not even taking into consideration that we drafted, he didn't draft, but Taylor Decker was drafted. Not even taking into consideration that. Cologne played over Frazier, but Frazier played a couple weeks ago. He was drafted, played pretty well. And as they get time, they're only going to get better. But if you were to do a little comparison analysis to what we are doing, what the Lions, what Brad is doing, and you look at the other teams and you're saying, okay, well, how many players did they have percentage-wise before they won a Super Bowl? Well, the Giants needed 68%. We have 63.6%. The Ravens have 81.8%. The Patriots had 72.7%. The Eagles had 68.2%. The Bucks had 77.3%. The Rams 59.1%. The Chiefs 68.2%. And all of the other Super Bowl teams between 2004 and 2024 had a minimum of 50%. Minimum. Now, I get it. I'm less intrigued by the 50%. But there's more teams that won more Super Bowls that had 60% or more drafted players. There's a reason why that works. And there's a reason why when I read you the free agents or the traded, starters, that there's really not a whole lot of them that really blew the doors off. You might have one on each Super Bowl team, but that's really about it. I mean, if you go way back, to 2012, if you look at the Ravens, Haloti Ngata, right? Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed, Ladarius Webb. I mean, that's insane. All those guys that they drafted, but they didn't really bring anybody in defensively other than Bernard Pollard. They didn't need to. They drafted everybody else. All right, so let's get into the next section of this. How has the new equation worked in Detroit? Well, you could really see that the bones of Holmes' philosophy, which is protect the spine of the defense, accept targeted trade-offs in splash categories, and trust development to unlock value without mega deal fragility, right? You don't want to go out there and spend boatloads of money and be fragile and be stuck. Holmes' blueprint has always prized conviction in scouting, patience in roster construction, and avoiding the right now splashes that will erode future value. That approach under Kelvin Shepard thus far in 2025 has not only delivered a resilient defense that stacks up against the rest, in my opinion. We've had some bad games. Yes. We've got some injuries. Yes. And right now we are a top 15 overall defense, which I'm not proud about. But I kind of am when you look at the situation. Passing defense, we're 19th. Scoring defense, we're 18th. We're third in third down defense. We're tied for 11th. We're 13th against the run. We're 7th in sacks. We're 3rd in forced fumbles. We're 10th in interceptions. And we're 12th in hurries. And we're, I think, 1 or 2 in pressures. So keep in mind, though, that the Lions defense is still ranked this high, middle of the pack, even after 5 now, major statistical letdown games since the bye week. The defense was operating at a top 5 level prior to the bye. The injuries kept stacking up in the secondary. So think about that for a moment. And I don't think I need to explain the math, right? If you're a top 5 team in week 7 and you're a top 15 team in week 15, well, you've had some really bad games that have swung the balance, right? If we were a very bad defense before, right now we would be at the bottom of the barrel because that's the way that the average would have worked out. We would have been in the bottom 5 spots statistically because of the 4 or 5 games that we, have lost have been statistically horrid. But the games that we have won, we've still let up some points to some teams, but statistically been pretty solid. So I'm more impressed that we are still ranked where we are, and in some categories ranked a lot better than where we have been in seasons past. Now take note of this exceptional stat. The Lions are only one of 2 teams right now with 2 defensive ends in the top 12 for sack leaders. Aiden Hutchinson has 9.5 per ESPN. El Quadin Muhammad has 9 per ESPN. Now, depending on which site you use or follow will depend on who's counting halves, right? Or who's rounding up. My count has both players with 9 sacks on the season, with Aiden's sack versus the Rams split with Alex Anzalone. We'll split hairs on that. It's okay. I think it's pretty clear that the defense has only improved in all areas year over year. As Brad Holmes' philosophy continues to age every season, this defense gets better and better. And with targeted resources and flexibility still intact, those Holmes principles are looking like foresight right now, not hindsight, and definitely not caution in 2025 forward. Let's take a look at year-over-year defensive snapshot for just a moment. In 2021, the Lions defense ranked 29th. In 2022, we dropped 3 spots to 32nd. In 2023, we jumped up 13 spots to 19th. In 2024, we dropped 1 spot to 20th. And in 2025, the first half of the season, we were a top 5 defense, and right now we are 15th. So Brad took us over at 29th we have moved up 14 spots in 5 seasons. And quite honestly, I think that we're more so a top 10 defense than we are what the rankings say we are. The statistical anomalies have put us into a category that I don't think that we belong in. Okay, passing defense has been god-awful, right? Well, we started out as 24th in 21. We went to 30th in 22. We jumped up 3 spots to 27th in 23, then back to 30th in 24, and right now we're 19th. We're 19th with the Legion of whom? And no Brian Branch and no Kirby Joseph since week 6. I'd say that's pretty impressive. But why is it working? It's one simple word. Depth. That's why. Rushing defense. In 2021, the Lions were ranked 28th, then 29th in 22, 2nd in 23, 5th in 24, 10th right now in 2025, and I think that we can all agree our defense against the run is much better than a 10th ranking. But why has our defense gone from 28th, 29th to 2nd in 3 seasons? And then 5th, and now still a top 10? Because of how we've addressed the defensive line and how we've addressed the defensive line depth, and by adding a guy by the name of Jack Campbell. That's why. It's exactly why. And Brian Branch. Brian Branch has been huge in the run game. All right, scoring defense. This is the way a lot of people like to look at teams and rank them, which I do. I think that scoring defense is the most important. And in 2021, we were 31st. In 2022, we were 29th. In 2023, we jumped up to 23rd. And then in 24, we took a huge step and we finished 7th at just over 20 points per game. The mark, my mark, 19.99 or better is where I want us. I think we were 20.06 or something like that. 2025, right now we are 18th. That is not where we belong. And again, we are 18th after letting up, 160 some odd points over the last 4 weeks? That's pretty impressive that we're still even there. Sacks, we started out as 30th in 21, 30th in 22, 23rd in 23, 23rd in 24. It's kind of nuts that we were ranked in the same exact spot 2 seasons in a row. And now we are 7th. 7th. But we do need more, right? We need more. I'm not antagonizing you. I'm just saying, what else do we really need? We're getting better and better and better at every metric every year. All right, forced fumbles. We were 27th and 21. 16th and 22. It's a big change. 23, we dropped back to 21st. Last year, we were 17th, and this year, we are 3rd in forced fumbles. It's not a mistake. It's by design. 2021, interceptions. We were tied for 22nd. 2022, we had we were 25th. 2023, huge jump to 11th. Last year, we were 6th, and we are still 8th this year without Kirby Joseph. Imagine if Kirby Joseph was on the field. It's huge. The 2 statistical performances that matter the most outside of stopping the run is turning the ball over. We do need to do it more, but we are a top 3 team in forced fumbles and a top 8 team in interceptions. All right, one of the stats that y'all really care about a lot because it's defensive line would be hurries. The Lions were 21st in both 21 and 22, and then 1st in 2023, 1st in 2024, 12th currently in 2025. Now, there's some things to consider here. When you are playing a contain game, you're not going to get hurries. How many games have we played contain this season? At least 2, if not 3. Right? So you're not going to get a bunch of hurries that way. You're not going to get a bunch of sacks that way, even though against the Ravens, we dialed it up in that, tail end of the 3rd and 4th quarter. I think that that's our best defense. Our best defense is playing contained, setting a hard edge, spying the quarterback or the running back, and then deploying your DBs where you need them and making sure that, your linebacker is locked in over the middle. We've had our best statistical performances playing contain and zone. So go to it because these numbers fit that mold. All right, but then there's the backlash. The backlash versus Holmes, right? Holmes style versus the backlash. So Holmes' draft and roster building approach since 2021, it's been very clear, right? Build the lines, value flexibility, and don't chase the headlines. You heard Brad say it all the time. We're not trying to chase headlines in February, March, or April. We want to chase the headlines in the middle of February, right? Hosting a Lombardi. He's publicly cautioned against drafting for right now. He's emphasizing patience and future investments over the short-term need chasing. That stance really set expectations, and it invited criticism when he declined to add another top dollar edge opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Fans wanted a second splash edge. Holmes kept the focus on the interior, the secondary, and rotation pieces and that sustain a defense without sacrificing the salary cap and or future draft capital. The Lions roster is built with continuity, targeted upgrades, and the latitude to pivot when the board and the market both align. But is the payoff visible in 2025? I think a lot of fans are blinded by the payoff, and they're blinded by the fact that this team is better than it was last year defensively, statistically. As the results accumulate, I think that earlier backlash feels less like stubborn criticism and more like growing pains of a fan base that is learning how to live with success. These next couple of paragraphs, to me, are the reason that we're seeing, all of this hate spewing, I call it. So listen closely if you don't mind. Again, as results accumulate, that earlier backlash against Brad Holmes feels like stubborn criticism and more like the growing pains of a fan base learning how to live with success. For decades, Lions fans never experienced the luxury of a modern, process-driven front office. Adjustment is real. It is never easy. Coming from the gutter of the league to the top of the league in 2.5 short seasons requires not only organizational growth, but a certain level of learning or growth for everyone involved, including the fan base. Unfortunately for Detroit, the growing pains are met with anger, resentment, and hate spewing towards players, coaches, the GM, and even ourselves, instead of recognizing all of the great things that this team has done, the talent accumulated, the players under contract for sustained success into the future. Agree or disagree with that statement? Do we have growing pains as a fan base because we never realized what it was like to actually have a front office that gave a shit, did the right things, made the right moves, put the team in a position of success? Managing a portfolio is much different than giving your money to someone to invest for you. If you never know where your money's going, if you have no clue about the stock market or whatever you're investing in, well, you kind of have to trust that person, right? That's no different. Instead, I'd rather invest my own money. I'd rather learn about the stock market. I'd rather do things myself. So I know what's going on. So I understand it. As a fan, I think we have a responsibility to kind of learn and understand and grasp at least the idea, the philosophy, and garner, some education for what we're doing because we've never had that opportunity. It's easy to sit and watch a TV on a Sunday and you watch the wins and the losses. You watch the big plays, you watch the bad plays. And at the end of the day, you make an opinion. You have a feeling about the team. But how many of us actually had been afforded the opportunity, the luxury of a modern, process-driven front office? Because that's what Brad Holmes is doing. It's not just throwing darts at balloons. He says, look, this is where we are now. This is where I want to be in 3. Here's who we are in 5. And if I do everything right and we get lucky along the way, this is who we're going to be in year 7 and beyond, and we're going to win some football games and some championships. And maybe it'll happen before that. But if you look at the status quo, most of these GMs take 7 years. All right, Hutchinson's real-time snapshot, production, usage, and context. There's a reason why he's part of this conversation. Hutchinson's 2025 ledger through week 15, PFF shows a productive, disruptive edge, doing exactly what a franchise cornerstone should. Now, PFF has him with 11 sacks, not 9.5, 21 total tackles, 4 forced fumbles, and a pick that he got this past weekend, with impact sequences across multiple game states, right? His game logs include multi-sack performances and steady weeks with pressures each game. The expected variance is typical of the position and opponent quality. Emphasize opponent quality. Would you be shocked if I noticed something entirely different? Now, I said more on this later in the article. I'll probably spare you of that part. You're going to have to go read the article if you want to know what my thought is. There's a familiar critique in any season. The quality of opposing tackles and protection plans, and that's a fair evaluation terrain for film review, which is what I did last night, and today I will finish it. But the bigger picture is the role he plays within Detroit's defensive architecture. Draw protection attention, win his share, and enable the rotational waves that produce team-level efficiency. The key term here is team level. You are expecting the opposite of Aiden to do what is required, right? But you shouldn't expect the opposite of Aiden to do more than what's required or more than Aiden. If Aiden is your key holder to the defense, well, then Aiden is the team level, right? Okay. I think we're on the same page there. Then you have the Muhammad efficiency factor. If Brad Holmes needed proof that depth and rotation can rival splash signings, El Quadin Muhammad has delivered it in 2025. Despite playing less than half the snaps of Aiden Hutchinson, 393 snaps to 849, according to PFF. Muhammad has 10 sacks, according to PFF, not 9, which ESPN has, to Aiden Hutchinson's 11. Muhammad has generated 46 pressures compared to 85 for Aiden Hutchinson. Remember the key here, team level, and Muhammad has outperformed that metric when you factor in efficiency. Average sack and pressure stats per snap. Aiden Hutchinson, 849 snaps, 1.3% snap to sack ratio. So that means for every snap that Aiden takes, he has a 1.3% chance of getting a sack. He also has a 10% chance of pressure on every snap. His double team rate, Aiden is double teamed 42.09% of snaps on pass rush, not overall, but just pass rush. Triple teamed on 6.68% and chipped 22.72%. Now, I will say that these numbers are provided by ESPN. If you were to watch the film yourself, I think these numbers are drastically different. They are for me. El Quadin Muhammad has 393 snaps. He is getting a sack 2.5% of his snap ratio. That is double of what Aiden Hutchinson is getting. Aiden, 1.3%. El Quadin Muhammad, 2.5%. Remember that Aiden is doubled only on 42.09% of snaps. And he's tripled less than 7%. He's chipped 22.72%. El-Kadi Muhammad is doubled more than Aiden. He's doubled 43.53% of snaps. He is also tripled only 1% less than Aiden at 5.49%. And he is chipped about half the time as Aiden, 9.02% of snaps. So when you look at the efficiency with nearly identical production on half the workload, it illustrates why Brad Holmes has resisted the urge to chase another $180 million edge. Muhammad's role epitomizes the Lions' philosophy: maximize rotational value, keep the legs fresh, spread the resources across the roster. El-Kadi Muhammad is the quiet proof of concept. He's delivering pass rush value on targeted usage, exactly how rotational investments are supposed to work. It's not just box score juice. It's that his production arrives without consuming a superstar snap share or superstar dollars. You let Detroit double down on interior and coverage to sharpen the entire unit's efficiency. And what I mean by this is by not going out and buying or trading for another premium edge who's having better efficiency than your star player is, you have now left yourself more ability to target the interior, Tyleek, Roy Lopez, get more in coverage, DJ Reed, everybody else that we brought in, Avonte Maddox, right? Muhammad's year really underscores what Holmes' scouting thesis is all about. Efficient role players who can spike high leverage snaps are worth more than a second financial anchor, especially when the schedule and game scripts demand adjustments week to week. And what that means is from week to week, you may need a certain type of player, a certain size player. And if you are cash strapped, draft capital, strapped, you may not be able to get that player. You may not be able to hold that roster spot for a player, which the Lions have definitely given themselves plenty of opportunity to retain these players. So the overwhelming hype that Aiden needs help and the hate that the Detroit fan base has poured into Brad Holmes or anyone lined up on the opposite of Aiden Hutchinson is sad. And it's almost laughable at this point because Muhammad has proven that he is active, he is durable, and central to Detroit's identity up front. Even as the team declines to overexpose its salary cap. They won't do it. They will not expose themselves. And for good reason. Because we're going to need some players next year through free agency and the draft. What are the risks and the fragility of single point bets? Well, I think it's pretty clear as of this weekend. The edge market has detonated over the past few years, pushing elite APY into the mid-30s and beyond. That's fine when the player stays healthy and the roster absorbs the cost, but opportunity cost is brutal when injuries hit. The Packers just pay the ultimate price to take the risk. After a blockbuster trade and a mega extension, Micah Parsons' ACL tear in Green Bay illustrates the systemic risk. One play can invert a season and a team's future. Micah Parsons was as advertised, 12.5 sacks, league-leading pressures, and then the ACL cut the fuse in Week 15. The cost wasn't just the player. It was the draft capital, the cap flexibility, and Kenny Clark, an elite interior defender, all surrendered to make the roster singular. Their path forward now depends on the collective of players left behind. However, void of time and now resources to re-architect on the fly, the Packers are sunk. Holmes built the Lions explicitly to avoid that cliff. And 2025 offers the contrast in its sharpest form. This is Brad Holmes' strategy. It isn't new, nor is it anti-superstar. It's pro-portfolio, pro-team, pro-future, pro-sustainability. When the cap lives at the edge of the envelope and the draft capital is leveraged to secure one more pass rusher, you limit the adjustments available when the injury lottery comes due. The Lions have paid through the nose with injuries. Why would they want to take the ultimate risk by leveraging the future, the entire future, as well? Holmes' method has spread risk across interior, edge rotation, and coverage, preserving flexibility for late season pivots. What I mean by that statement is we have not sunk all of our eggs into one basket. We brought in DJ Reed, we drafted Terrion Arnold, we drafted Ennis Rakestraw. Ennis Rakestraw has been injured 2 seasons in a row. Terrion Arnold gets knocked out this year 3 times, different levels. He's done for the year. DJ Reed got injured, but he came back. Now, had we only brought in DJ Reed and not drafted Terrion Arnold, what would have happened when we needed one or the other to show up? We also brought in Avonte Maddox, Amik Robertson, right? What would have happened had we not brought those players in? We also brought players in like Eric Hallett, went out and grabbed Arthur Mollett. Brad has spread the risk around, but that's just one position. Okay, you drafted Levi Onwuzurike. You drafted Josh Paschal. You brought in DJ Reader in free agency. You drafted Aiden Hutchinson. You drafted Aleem McNeil, right? You drafted Mekhi Wingo. And yada, 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 right? You brought in Marcus Davenport. The point being, you brought in Roy Lopez. They got really deep on the defensive line with multiplicity and versatility. So if a player goes down, they got someone that can fill in. Now, is it a superstar? No. But the efficiency is working, isn't it? And again, I just gave one example with Al-Qadim Muhammad versus Aiden Hutchinson. What about the other players? Right? I haven't even gotten into that. Didn't get into it in this article because it's already long enough. So, again, Brad Holmes' method spreads risk across multiple positions, maintaining flexibility. Here's my final take. Where overspenders land in 2025. As we can see from the numbers, the Lions did not need another edge rusher opposite of Aiden through trade, right? It could be in free agency that we pick somebody up next year. I'm expecting that we're going to take somebody in the draft. Why? Because it goes back to what I said at the very beginning. You keep the roster flexibility, but you keep the money that you're spending low. You get cost control when you draft guys. You have flexibility with a longer term with their, with the years that they have on a rookie deal. You get a little bit of time with them being able to develop because you've already got Aiden who's developed, and you've got Aleem who's developed, and you've got AQM who's developed. You've got DJ Reader who's developed. Tyleek will be entering his second year. Roy Lopez is a veteran. He's developed. So you have all these highly developed players. Jack Campbell will be in his 4th season. Right? All of these highly developed players that can fill in. When you bring in a rookie now it's not so like he has to perform right now. He can take a year to develop. Oh, wait, we brought in Ahmed Hassanin. Now he got injured. We don't know who he is yet. But we're giving that player more time to develop now because we have all of these other players that are at what? A top 15 defense after 5 statistical laydowns this season. We were playing as a top 5 defense without half of our secondary. So again, in fact, I would say that the argument that Muhammad is much more efficient. He takes on doubles and triple teams just as much and has been more productive than Aiden has been this season per snap. If Shepard were to give Muhammad more snaps, the numbers would continue to rise, and based on the data, would be better. I have given you the links and the data. There should be no more lies or misunderstanding anymore when you have been given the facts, right? This time in digital print and video, you will have everything to evaluate. This is not an article about Aiden at all. This is an article trying to get people to understand what Brad Holmes is doing and why Muhammad and Aiden are working well together. They're working so well that they're the only two in the top 12 on the same team. If you go to the top 16, Denver has two players, Will Anderson and I don't think it was Daniil Hunter. It might have been. Zooming out, right? Taking the big overview. The league's top defenses skew towards strong interiors, coherent coverage, and balanced pressure. Houston, Cleveland, Denver, the Chargers, they all sit at top 5 levels in total defense. Green Bay, before Parsons, had been top 5 in yardage allowed. Detroit slots mid-table right now overall in top 10 against the run, a profile that suggests that the pass rush is good enough within their resource budget right now. And more importantly, it's survivable if injuries strike. And we know it's not if, it's when. In aggregate, the overspenders, they gain ceiling. The portfolio defenses gain survivability. Brad has a portfolio. The other teams that are spending for players like Micah Parsons, they get ceiling with one player. And when that player goes down, that ceiling's busted. Brad has players that he can pluck and pull from anywhere and put on the squad. You also have to take into consideration our vet squad, on the practice squad. Those players have shaken Brad and Dan's hand and said, you know what, I'm here to stay, I'm here to play. I don't need to go anywhere else. That's why they've stuck around. We've only lost one this year, and that was Craig Reynolds. So anyway, in aggregate, like I said, the overspenders gain ceiling, the portfolio defenses gain survivability, and Holmes picks survivability for a reason. The message is not that big money edges don't work. It's that their risks scale with their cost, and you need the rest of the defense to be sturdy when the star is out. That's exactly the contingency that Detroit built. When you lose one of your star players, the Lions have been able to win games. They've been able to survive. Right now, we are in survival mode. Had we gone all in and brought in, another edge or another top flight player that we paid through the nose for, and that player got injured, well, we don't have a mid-tier guy to back him up because we didn't have the money or wouldn't have had the money, right? 2 years ago, I tried to explain to everybody in the very beginning, what I love to do is I need to get back to my roots. And I don't want to get lost in the sauce and get too far left or too far right. I need to get back into my roots. But this fan base is just not, and I'm not calling you guys out independently, but the fan base is just getting to me because of all of the anger and all of the hate, and it's just, it weighs on you when you know that you've given great information that has come true. That it's the same thing that I've been saying before the Lions are even doing it. And it's coming true. It's coming to fruition. And it's working. One loss isn't, it's not the end of the world. Right? 5-6 losses. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes your injuries are just too much. We saw it last year. We kept winning. We kept winning because we had a deep bucket. And it's even deeper this year. But a couple of seasons ago, I tried to explain to everybody the reason why I would never go out and get that one edge or that one DT, because you spend all that money, and when that player gets injured, when that player misses a game or two, it could be the most important game. You could get injured in week 18 and you're off to the playoffs. You don't have that player anymore. Packers. Right? They hedged their whole season on Parsons. He's gone. Do you honestly feel, and they got rid of Kenny Clark. Do you honestly feel like they're going to continue to win games? Especially in the postseason? I don't think so. Why? Because they don't have anybody else that can do what he was doing. They've lost all their flexibility. What I said is I would go in and grab mid-tier guys. For every one player that costs you $30 million, I could get 3 mid-tier guys, and combined, their production can be at or more or a way better than that one guy. So if I've got 3 guys in a rotation, you need 4 edge at a minimum, right? So if you got Aiden and 3 more guys that are in on a rotation, and they're all really good, $10 million, $12 million players, those are really good football players in the NFL. And so if they're going out there and they're getting 6, 7 sacks apiece, and you're getting 18 to 20 sacks off 3 guys, and you're getting 10 to 14 from Aiden, and you've got 30, 35, 34 sacks from 4 guys, that's insane. That's an insane amount of numbers. When you look at the overall sack leaders right now, by team, right now the Broncos have 58 sacks. The Lions have 39. So take my idea here. If you get 12 from Aiden, and let's just say you get 5 apiece from 2 guys and 1 guy gets 7. So you get 17, you get 29 sacks. 29 sacks from just 4 guys. Well, what if 1 guy gets injured? Well, you still got 2 guys that can produce at a high level. And you'll have somebody else in the funnel. That guy may have already gotten a sack or 2. Look at what Wheat and Lacey did right away. But go look around what the Lions are doing, right? Go look at the rest of the team. How many sacks do they have? The Lions have players that have sacks all over the place. It is a down year for Ali McNeil right now. We normally expect to get at least 3 out of him. We expect to get at least, 1 or 2 out of DJ Reader. I don't know why I can't get to my stats. Here, I'll just go to PFF. Here we go. Okay, so let's take those 29 sacks. We need to make up 10 more to get to where we are right now, right? 10 more. So I'm going to remove Aiden, because I already counted him. I'll remove Al-Qadim Muhammad. So Jack Campbell has 5. Derek Barnes has 4. Brian Branch has 3. So right there's 12. Roy Lopez has 3. That's 15. Tyrus Wheat has 2. Alex Anzalone has 2. So that's 19. Trevor Nowaski, 20, 21, 22. So we have 22 more sacks. All right. So I probably have to remove Lacey and Wheat because those maybe were the other guys, right? Potentially. So that gives us 19 more sacks on top of the other 29. Now, it's all hypothetical, but that puts us at 48 sacks on the season. 48 sacks on the season. Where would that rank? Well, if we had 48 sacks, we'd be number 2 in the league. So that's why my philosophy is always take more, not less. Spend wisely. You fill your roster. You're going to need the depth anyway. So why not have, a rookie that you're grooming that you can take in the 1st or 2nd round this next season? My roster roulette always said Aiden gets paid. Now it's time to draft his replacement, but he's not really his replacement. It could be his replacement, but it's the guy that you're grooming that can take his place if something were to happen to Aiden. But working on the other side, working with another high-level veteran, that now you do have that depth. And you're into year 6 now, and you've got all this other depth that you have on the team. We're just going to get better and deeper and better and deeper. And the guys that are really good that can last, I don't know how Brad's done it, but the guys that we have playing football seem like you're going to play football for a very long time. These aren't flash in the pan guys. Yeah, a lot of your 5th, 6th, and 7th round guys are going to be flash in the pan, probably aren't going to work out. But that's every team. That's every team. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little segment. Maybe we learned something from it. At the end of the day, I want, I'll apologize, to you guys. I might get a little rough on Aiden at times. Yeah, sure, I was upset about the loss. And yeah, I do expect more from Aiden. But we should never doubt the fact that Al-Quddin Muhammad is playing just as well as Aiden right now. And the numbers are there, and I think I just proved it to you. He's played less than half the snaps. His efficiency is way higher. If he's playing, I don't know why he's not playing more snaps, honestly. Like, you could take Aiden out for a couple of snaps and put, AQM in more often. Give Aiden a little bit of a break. I bet you he'd be more productive if he had a little bit of a break more often. We did see him come out on second down a couple of times in this game against the Rams, and that was the smart move. It's honestly one of the first times I've seen that I've paid attention to it. But he's not failing you. He's not failing us. He's not failing the fan base. If there's 4 or 5 things that I'm going to take away from today, it's this. It took Howie Roseman 7 seasons. It took Les Snead at least, 7 or 10 seasons to win a Super Bowl. And in between that time, they each missed the playoffs at least 3-4 times, and they lost a bunch of wild cards. Brad Holmes has a better record than all of those guys combined in his first 5 seasons. We are so much closer than we are further away. In this window, look, the window is such a mythical. I don't know why people talk about it. I don't know why it even got brought up. But the window is just, it's a myth. The only way you have a window is if you're really up against age. Are we up against age on this team? Jared Goff is 30 years old. Phillip Rivers is 44. Aaron Rodgers is 45, I think. 43, 44, 45. How old is Kirk Cousins? 38? 37? Look, these guys are going to play. Goff could probably play another 10 years if he wants to. I'll give him another 5. I think he'll play another 5 years, and then he'll probably hang it up because he's made a ton of money. This could be his last contract. You never know. But I give him at least another 5 years. And the fact that we have a number 1 offense, number 2 offense, number 3 offense, whatever you want to call it, I'm good with Goff. What we need is an offensive line, more than anything. That's the most important key to unlocking what this Lions team is going to do. And so the window really doesn't exist because you're always going to be able to supplement with more and better players. Players are going to get younger. The roster is going to get younger overall every year. And it gets older overall with some of your star players that you keep around. Penei Sewell's like 24 years old. He doesn't have a window. Taylor Decker's about to retire. Okay, we definitely need an upgrade over there anyway. He's played great. Love his heart. But his age is showing. His injuries are showing. We need a really good center. And when Brad fixes all of these things, we're right back in the hunt next year. But this year's not done. Not even close to being done. All it takes is a spark. And once that spark happens and this team finally hits it, these next 3 games could propel us into the playoffs as, who said it earlier, the hottest team in the league that nobody wants to play. I don't think anybody really wants to play our offense. We should have beat the Rams. Damn straight we should have. That is a game we shouldn't have lost. And I see the people out there saying, don't blame the refs. How dare you blame the refs? Blame the Lions. Yeah, you can blame the Lions defense for giving this game up. Definitely not the offense. Sorry. Look, if the offense goes out and balls out in the first half and the defense was doing a pretty good job in the first half too, you got to continue that into the second half. At some point, the other team is going to figure out your offense. And things slow down for us. but the defense fell apart. What did they score? Like 3 touchdowns in a row? Like back to back to back? That can't happen. Now, one of them was a gift. It was a gift by the refs. Can't happen. It just can't. So anyway, let me get into the chat for a minute, then we'll hang it up for the day. On the misses of Brad Holmes, we've heard that, we've seen that. People say that Brad Holmes is missed on this or that or the other thing. What is he really missed on? Is he really missed on anything? No. Why? Because not every player that you draft is going to be a starter. Not every player you draft is meant to be a starter. And maybe this is a newsflash, but not every player that enters the draft is a good football player at the NFL level. And sometimes that's a first-round draft pick that doesn't work out, or a second, or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth. A lot of third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh round draft picks don't work out. We can't play hindsight. We need to have foresight. And what Brad has done has put this team in a position to win. SW says, expected the Lions to lose more games this year because of their schedule and the loss of both coordinators, but the way that they have looked, the team has regressed. I don't know about that. I think we regressed from the injuries, and I think that we regressed from Frank Ragnow's retirement. Let's settle that debate. Man, I'll add that to my list today. I did plan on getting some stuff done today, so let me add that to my list. All right, quick reset. Be right back.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
One sec. It's getting chilly in here. My little heater blew up on me yesterday. I got the big heater running now, so you might hear it a little bit. Should have just had the HVAC installed. All right, thank you for calling Rockhound Detroit Lions. Who's on the line?
This is Ben Ross.
Hey, how you doing, man?
This ain't Ben. Good, man. You?
Oh, I'm doing all right, man. What's on your mind today?
I just, after watching last night's game, I don't know if you mentioned this because I just caught the tail end, but Melifau looked like a number one starting safety.
You talking about the Monday night game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was unfortunately watching Christmas movies. But yeah, no, Melifau, he's always been a good player, and I just don't think it was working out in Detroit. There was something going on there. He was not a good fit anymore.
Yeah, don't you think we gave up on him? I don't know.
I don't know if we gave up on him, but do you remember when he constantly had like a fingernail issue or
he was hurt. He was hurt.
Yeah, well, he had a little finger issue. He kept having a finger issue, and I think that Dan was like, "Come on, man! Like enough's enough. I got guys out there playing with broken wrists, broken hands, broken. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
and you got a hangnail. So I think that kind of just wore out its welcome a little bit. But yeah, he's always been a good football player, man. Always been a good football
player. And then I think I'll be honest. I was shocked at how pivotal. I knew Laporta was good. I just didn't realize he's part of the cog that keeps the wheel moving, man.
Yeah, he is, man.
He is.
He's a chain mover.
What a beast. that whatever, I don't know, was that 23 draft? Branch, him, and Campbell and Gibbs.
Yeah.
We got to watch. We got to watch our money, and Brad Holmes is doing that.
Yes, he is. It's the most important thing.
We need to all 4 of those players. We need to re-sign. Obviously, with Gibbs and Campbell, we get the 5th year because they were first rounders. But Branch and Laporta are going to get a bag.
Yep. And I think the way that works out, to your point on the 5th round, is it's going to be very similar to J-Mo and Aiden. We'll pick up their 5th year, and then they will add an extension on top of it. So that means that we'll actually have them for 3 plus their 5th. So they really won't get paid until 2028. When Dan and Brad's contracts are up. Hopefully they'll be renegotiated. But you get what I'm saying.
I'm 100% with you. Brad Holmes is he's cooked. We've just never, like you said it completely. Like, we've never had a real professional front office.
Yeah.
And now we do.
I'm glad that you got to listen to some of that. So, I was thinking real hard yesterday. We had some upset fans, some upset members, and they don't like when I get on Hutch too much, but he's just one of those players that you expect a lot from, and I've always been fair and critical, to every player.
I'm 100% with you.
And so, I thought about it last night. I'm like, well, how can I put this in the context that what Brad is doing is spot on, and I don't think that anyone's really put together a detailed explanation of what Brad's been doing and why we are in the position. Like, somehow we keep going back to Frank Ragnow retired, but I don't want to take all your time, man. What else would you like to talk about?
No, I mean, I'm with you. Again, I was going to mention Frank Ragnow. Like, I almost feel like they had to have known that he was on his way out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got Ratledge and Miles Frazier. And to speak of Miles Frazier, man, Miles Frazier, I thought he played phenomenal. And then, no offense to Colin, I mean, Tristan tried, but he's not NFL quality, honestly, at least against that number 1 defense front.
Who was that, Miles Frazier?
Yeah, I think Miles Frazier played phenomenal when he played.
Oh, yeah, he was playing.
I shouldn't say phenomenal. He played
good.
He played good,
yeah.
which is way better than not good when it comes to Tristan Colin.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think that Colin has some experience on his side. Frazier obviously is really raw. I mean, those are his first snaps. He really hasn't been in any practice leading up to that, maybe a few weeks, but didn't even have a training camp or anything. So I think the ceiling's a lot higher for Frazier. And at a minimum, when you look at Mahogany and Frazier, man, if they ended up being our backups, how crazy good would that be?
That'd be phenomenal. It would. I agree, 100%.
Yep.
Spot on. And going to back to the Aiden thing for a second. Like, I'm with you. I mean, his performance to me has been a 7.5. It's decent, but he's not getting paid to be decent. He's getting paid to be great.
Right. Well,
so I'm with.
In his defense too, I think that if we look at the scheme. A lot of fans put these big numbers on Aiden. I never have. I said he'd have 12 sacks this year at most. And the reason why is I expected the guys around him to all show up with the way that Calvin Shepard was designing this defense. You could see it when I was at training camp. Like, okay, we're going to highlight these linebackers, and we are putting more emphasis on everybody as a collective. And I think we just need to stick with that. When we allow Aiden to do his thing, it seems like we have more issues than when we stay more collective as a hive.
And work
you know
as
what
a
I mean?
unit.
Yeah,
Right.
work as a hive.
That's all scheme. That's all scheme.
Yep, it's all
And
scheme.
that's on the coaches. That's not on Aiden.
Exactly.
Aiden has to play the scheme that they give him.
Exactly.
So I guess you're right on that. And for all we're not privy to information on the inside. For all we know, he could be injured. He could have broken ribs. He could have I'm just speculating. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, all these guys
he's
are
a
banged
tough
up.
Football player.
Yeah, all these guys are banged up, man. But
right.
Yeah, and the other thing to the
Hey,
scheme
all
thing.
right, one quick question.
Sure.
Quick question before I let you go. You think Mahogany's going to come back this week?
I haven't heard anything yet. I haven't dug into anything this morning. Since I've been on here, usually 8 a.m. things will start to kind of leak out. But I'm hoping so. I'm hoping he gets back into the fold. But I don't know if we want him going in against Pittsburgh. Isn't TJ Watt down?
Yeah. Well, he was down yesterday. I mean, he's coming back. They said he's going to play still this season. So.
Yeah, but
they're still fighting for the first, right? I mean, they're fighting the Ravens pretty hard there for.
Yeah,
so,
he's got a collapsed lung though. I don't think he's playing this week.
But I read everything said that he plans on playing
this week.
So I don't know, not this week. They just said this season.
I got
there's 3 games left, and like I said, he did miss yesterday. But Hightower is dominant too. So.
Yeah, he's old too, man. He's been around.
He is old, yeah. No, but he's still productive.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Cool, brother. Have a good day, man.
You too. Take care.
See ya. All right. TJ Watt. Yeah, just a little follow up on that. So they did some dry needling, which is a skilled intervention where the provider uses a thin needle to penetrate the skin with the goal of alleviating pain and improving movement. Unlike wet needle, what are they talking about with this? What the hell's dry needling? Anyway, diagnosed with a collapsed lung. It required surgery with TJ Watt. I didn't think he was expected to play this year again, but it sounds like maybe there's potential he's going to play again. We'll get into more of Steelers stuff, obviously, tomorrow and into Thursday. But Frank Ragnow, let me put this to bed real quick. Try to. I know everyone's going to have their opinion. But Frank Ragnow officially retired on June 2nd, right? Citing some health concerns. Let me throw you a tinfoil for the day. Do we think that maybe Frank Ragnow hurt his hamstring and the Lions knew about it? Allegedly. And instead of him going on IR, he just retired? What do we think about that? Is there a possibility that happened? He's like, look, I don't want to hurt the roster. I don't want to hurt your IR. Let me just retire real quick. And then if I can come back, I'll just unretire. I don't know if anyone's ever talked about that, but that's the tinfoil hat question of the day. But he retired June 2nd, citing health concerns, prioritizing his well-being after 7 seasons. And then it was also brought up that he's been working out this entire time. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I don't know why you'd be working out if you didn't plan on coming back anyway. Is what it is. But the draft was in April. Free agency was in March. And he retires in June. Who knows what happened? We don't know if Brad Holmes knew. But I would definitively argue for Brad Holmes that if he knew Frank Ragnow was done, he probably would have done something in free agency. I don't think that he really knew Frank Ragnow was retiring until maybe the draft and everything was already passed, which means you're out. Okay, and to clear that up, I'll do a video on it again today. There's nobody left. There's literally nobody left unless you go and make a trade. But why? What would give the Lions any sort of a reason to think that they needed to go out and trade for somebody when they had Graham Glasgow, who's a center, and they just drafted Tate Ratledge that they were going to try to convert, which did not work right away? You were fine with Graham. Where things started to fall apart is when Taylor Decker got injured. That's when things started to fall apart. Teams started to load up on the right side, and they started attacking Mahogany and Taylor Decker. And then all of the miscommunications, that's where things fell apart. Those two things. So I don't think that we can blame ever Frank Ragnow for retiring. And we can't blame Brad Holmes for not doing something when you are literally between the window that does exist, post free agency, post draft, prior to 53-man cuts. There is nobody available. Hardly anything goes on between May and the end of August. The only thing that of note that goes on is camp, OTAs, mini camps, 53-man cuts end of August, and then usually late May, early June, or mid-May, early June, that's when you get some extensions. That's about it. Nothing else happens in the NFL between that time. Those guys are on vacation. And everyone's already signed, retired, or under contract, and they're not going anywhere. It is what it is. It is what it is. So, speaking of broken ribs, man, I got some sore ribs today. That's it for today. I got to get out of here. It's been 3 hours. A bass fishing accident. That's hilarious. Robbie, I don't know what you brought up. What'd you bring up? The previous injury? Is that what I said? Is that what you're talking about? Mike P, have a good day. Looks like he just bounced out. Everyone else, appreciate you guys joining us today, or joining me today. Eric, I think, is back tomorrow. Hopefully everything goes well for what he's doing today. Dragging elk around. There you go. All right. I'll get this thing posted a little later with a revised version of the video. And do me a favor, subscribe to DetroitFootballJournal.com. That is where the tape review is going to be of Aiden. Again, it's not to piss in Aiden's Cheerios. This channel is about truth, transparency, and honesty. I don't want to be under a false sense of security with anything, right? If a player's not performing, well, let's talk about it. And if a player's not performing, let's have proof if everyone says that player is performing. And that's for anybody, not just Aiden. It's for anybody. I don't care who it is. Last and final thing I'll say on Jared Goff, that's another hot button issue that maybe we'll get into a little bit more tomorrow, is Jared Goff had, 3 TDs, over 300 yards, no interceptions, and 1 sack? How would we ever think that he was the reason that the Lions didn't win? That is the furthest thing from the truth. He can't control what's being called. He can't control the run game not working. Matter of fact, see, I just bought myself another 3 minutes. I just want to take a look at something. In that third quarter, when things started to fall apart for the Lions, we went 5-yard run, 10-yard penalty, 6-yard run, 4-yard pass, punt. But it was run, run, run. Only 1 pass for Jared Goff on that first possession. And then in the second possession in the third quarter, it was incompletion to Jamo Williams, which was almost completed for like a 50-yard bomb. Sack. And then incompletion to Jahmyr Gibbs on 3rd and 22 after the sack. The 1 sack he takes, and we're going to blame him for not doing anything on 2 possessions in the third quarter, because the Rams scored a field goal, touchdown, all in the third quarter, but they took off 9, 10, 11, 12 minutes of clock in that quarter. There was no opportunity in the third quarter, but we got to do a better job, right? Dan Campbell's got to do a better job at mixing up the plays in the third quarter. I will say that. It's not on Jared Goff. All right, that's it. You guys have a wonderful, good day. I'm not sure about that last message in there. I'm not sure what you're saying. You guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy the Lions. Look, we're doing just fine. I think that if you wind back 7 years, we would have killed to have 10, 11, 12 wins in a season. We would love to be talking about going to the playoffs. We would be excited about it. What happened to the excitement? Let's get excited. We're about to go to the playoffs. We have a chance. Let's be happy about it. That's where I'd rather be. See you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down.